Chapter 1727. I'm not going. To everyone's surprise, Jiang Tian shook his head. For a moment both the audience and the audience in front of the screen were disappointed. You're quite sharp-tongued. Zhang Kai's face was full of ridicule as he said disdainfully, but what's the use of having a sharp tongue? Unfortunately that's all you can do. At that time that Xin Mange was also sharp-tongued, but she was still captured by me. I beat her until her little face was split open and she couldn't scream anymore. As soon as he said that, coldness appeared in Jiang Tian's eyes. He didn't dare to provoke Brother Zhang. That's a wise move. At this moment behind Zhang Kai, another young man laughed complacently. Who dares to provoke the 5 heavenly lords of the human race? Not to mention him, even the Tianqing sect wouldn't dare. He was Qi Zhuoran, the young master of the Qi Jinglei family, one of the 5 heavenly lord families. He had a good relationship with Zhang Kai. At this moment he had to speak up for Zhang Kai. When I destroyed the Tianqing school's Diansong Daoist sect, the Tianqing school didn't dare to say a word. Tianqing school can't survive in Wuxia anymore. They can only swallow their anger. Jiang Tian's eyes darkened. Xianxia from the Tsing Yilong family, another heavenly lord family, also laughed. That's right, this guy can only bully Foundation establishment cultivators. He's a golden core perfected cultivator like Brother Zhang Kai. He raised his chin but did not look at Jiang Tian at all. Instead he stared at Tang Yuyu behind him and said, "You're a peak stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Apologize to Brother Zhang Kai now and we'll let you go. Also let those small celebrities drink with us. This is the end of this matter." Just when everyone thought that Jiang Tian was going to beg for mercy, Zhang Kai waved his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back, smiling smugly. "I said I won't go out, but I didn't say I'll let you go." However, Jiang Tian said leisurely, "What I mean is, killing you is just a flick of my sleeve. Why do we need to go out?" "What did you say?" In an instant, Zhang Kai's face flickered with both shock and anger. "You're courting death." His body bent like a bow and shot out, punching toward Jiang Tian. In his rage, although he did not use his Dharma form, he had used all of his strength in this punch. His immortal qi exploded in all directions, filling up a radius of 3 meters. In this small space the space suddenly shattered like the center of a nuclear explosion. Careful! Li Huiyan, Tang Yuyu, Zhao Chenzi and Bai Choufei all cried out in alarm. Except for Li Huiyan, the 3 of them didn't see through Jiang Tian's identity. They only thought that he was a rogue cultivator who spoke up for justice. Since they couldn't figure out Jiang Tian's cultivation, they were naturally worried. Even though Li Huiyan guessed that it was Jiang Tian, she didn't have much confidence. Jiang Tian had killed golden core cultivators before, but they were all ordinary golden core cultivators. And Zhang Kai was rumored to have an 8th grade golden core, comparable to an ordinary nascent soul cultivator. Another reckless cannon fodder. Only Zhang Yilin watched from afar with a mocking smile. "Get out." Jiang Tian didn't even look at Zhang Kai, he just waved his sleeve casually. No one felt anything strange from Jiang Tian's wave of his sleeve. But the result was extremely horrifying. There was a muffled bang. Zhang Kai was instantly smashed into pieces. A rain of crystal-clear flesh and broken bones sprinkled down. Even his dantian and golden core that were said to be indestructible were instantly turned into a bloody mist and powder. His thin and ethereal soul was just about to flee when Jiang Tian raised his hand and pulled it towards him. If there was still some blood on the ground, people would even think that Zhang Kai had never appeared at the meeting that night. Hiss! Is he dead? Zhang Kai, the young master of the dragon-slaying Zhang family, was killed by him. How dare he kill Zhang Kai? Isn't he afraid of the revenge of the dragon-slaying Zhang family? Oh my god! That's the dragon-slaying Zhang family. The power of his sleeve is terrifying. For a moment there was an uproar. Everyone was so scared that their legs turned to jelly and they stepped back. Everyone was stunned and couldn't believe it. They looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a demon. What the fuck? Especially Qi Zhuoran and Xianxia, who were completely dumbfounded. They had never thought that such a situation would happen. Zhang Kai, the elite disciple of the dragon-slaying Zhang family, who had an 8th grade golden core and had reached the late stage, was killed by an inexplicable rogue cultivator. This was simply like a fantasy story, causing people to feel disbelief. This guy is very powerful. He is at least in the golden core stage, and I'm afraid he is at the late stage of the golden core stage. Zhou Xian's face was pale and he was terrified to the extreme. He staggered back like a stray dog and he wished for nothing more than to run away. He was only an early-stage golden core cultivator and the grade of his golden core was average. The difference between him and Zhang Kai was not just a little bit. Jiang Tian killed Zhang Kai with a wave of his sleeve. It would be easy for him to kill Zhou Xian. We are in big trouble today. I'm afraid there will be a big fight, Qishuran said. Of course he was powerful after killing Zhang Kai. But Zhang Kai had a nascent soul heavenly lord behind him. Was this kid not afraid of death? At this moment, Mo Yuza, who was in the crowd, suddenly panicked and said in a low voice, Li Fifan, don't you think this person looks like Jiang Taichu? Li Fifan's face also darkened. If Kang Taichu returned, those who had betrayed Jiang Tian and followed the 5 new heavenly lords would be punished. They would be doomed. Oh, it can't be him. He just looks a bit like him. Li Fifan clenched his fists and encouraged himself. He was only a golden core cultivator when he left. I heard that a golden core cultivator couldn't travel across the galaxy. He must have died in the universe or in the ruins of deity. Meanwhile, the scene had been broadcast to every corner of the world through various live-streaming software and media. Billions of people on the internet witnessed it. It was the center of attention. The glorious return of a peerless overlord. However, they still didn't know that the man with white hair and sunglasses was Jiang Tian. Oh my god. He killed Zhang Kai, the prodigy of the dragon-slaying Zhang family. This kid is way too strong. What level is he at? I didn't see his dantian vibrating, golden core roaring or dharma form. But he must be at least a golden core perfected cultivator to kill an 8th grade golden core cultivator. Yes. Cultivation level is not important to him now. If he can kill Zhang Kai, it means he is at least a golden core perfected cultivator. A golden core perfected cultivator? I'm afraid it's more than that. Even a peak stage golden core cultivator wouldn't be able to kill a peak stage golden core cultivator. If their power was similar, the battle would be in a stalemate and they would have to fight for 300 rounds. However, this person in front of him had destroyed his opponent's soul with just a casual wave of his sleeve. This was clearly a one-hit kill of a crushing level. He must be a nascent soul heavenly lord. In a blink, the entire internet was in an uproar. It was as if a pot of ice water had been poured into a pot of hot oil. No one could remain calm. They were all incredibly shocked, unable to overlook this matter. They were all discussing and guessing Jiang Tian's strength and identity. A nascent soul heavenly lord. No wonder he dared to provoke the dragon-slaying Zhang family. He's a nascent soul heavenly lord. Who is he? Why haven't I seen him before? A nascent soul heavenly lord has appeared in Wuxia. When they realized that Jiang Tian might be a nascent soul heavenly lord, the internet was even more shocked. This news was like a hurricane that swept across the internet and the real world. It set off huge waves and no one could remain calm. Countless netizens were dumbfounded. They stared at Jiang Tian as if flowers had bloomed on his face. Everyone was shocked, frightened, admiring and admiring. They didn't want to look away anymore. Chapter 1728. Even with the support and guidance of the Beidou cultivators on Earth, no one had entered the soul formation level yet. The nascent soul cultivators were the dominators among the natives on Earth. At the moment, there were only a few hundred natives on Earth who had reached the nascent soul level. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. They were all ancestral patriarchs at the top of the pyramid of power, dominating a country or a sect. Compared to golden core overlords, nascent soul cultivators were worlds apart. Once they entered the nascent soul level, they would be in charge of their own lives and would be called heavenly lords. Their power would be in harmony with Dharma laws and they would be in harmony with the world, controlling the laws and forming a forbidden area. That man slapped Zhang Kai to death. I'm afraid it's just a prelude. I'm afraid he's going to declare war on the Zhang family and the new guardians of Wuxia. But who was this person? He does look like the alliance master of the Taichu sect. Is he his disciple? Zhang Shisan, a loyal fan of Jiang Tian, yelled excitedly in front of the screen. Wow, that white-haired heavenly lord is so handsome. He gave people a feeling of vicissitudes of life and it reminded me of an old song. Your hair is like snow, sad and beautiful as we part. I burn incense, who have I touched? I wonder how handsome he would be if he took off his sunglasses. I'm completely fascinated by him. Fans of Zhang Tian appeared everywhere on the livestream, Weibo, Douyin and headlines. Many girls were immediately attracted to Zhang Tian and were impressed by Zhang Tian's power when he slapped Zhang Kai to death. Some people even formed the White-Haired Heavenly Lord fan club and Snow-Haired fan club. However, there were also some old and wise people who shook their heads when they saw this. It's useless. That white-haired Heavenly Lord is only a nascent soul cultivator. The Zhang family alone has more than one nascent soul cultivator and several Heavenly Lords. The 5 supreme Heavenly Lord families are working together to control the cultivation world in Wuxia. That white-haired Heavenly Lord offended one of the 5 supreme Heavenly Lord families. How can he be a match for them? The development of the situation also confirmed their speculation. At this moment, the people of the Zhang clan also began to report the great change that had occurred. Report it to the dragon-slaying Zhang family, and even the Wuxia Guardians Alliance and the Myth Alliance. After all, this event seemed to be hosted by the Zhang family and the Guardians of Wuxia, but it was actually controlled by the Myth Alliance. They were even following the orders of the Big Dipper Righteous Alliance. His goal was to gradually weaken Zhang Tian's influence and compress Tianqing School's living space until it was completely uprooted. Now that there was such a huge change in the exchange gathering, the person in charge of the scene naturally didn't dare to be negligent and reported it to the higher-ups. Hundreds of miles away from the Gold City, a luxurious flying boat which was about 1,000 feet long, was emitting a dazzling light that illuminated the layers of leaden clouds. It was flying towards the Gold City at lightning speed. The interior of the cabin was luxuriously furnished. There were all sorts of spirit-gathering arrays, temperature-controlling arrays, defensive arrays and soundproofing arrays. Any random decoration was a spirit treasure or true artifact. Moreover, they came from the Big Dipper Righteous Alliance. Their magic power fluctuations were extremely strong and priceless. If he took it out, he would definitely be beaten to a pulp by cultivators. In the most spacious cabin, a few nascent soul stage cultivators were sitting cross-legged, discussing with solemn expressions. Originally, the 3 nascent soul stage elders of the Snow God Palace as well as Kai Xiaoqian and other disciples came to the Zhang Jinghua family in Beijing to buy my live broadcast platform, but suddenly we lost contact. We rushed to the scene overnight, but there was no trace of the Zhang family. According to the surrounding people, it seems that a nascent soul stage cultivator had made a move, and the battle was earth-shattering. Yang Qin, the palace master of the Snow God Palace and one of the 5 most powerful cultivators in China, said in a deep voice as his eyes shone brightly. He looked like he was only in his 40s, wearing a jade-colored Taoist robe, but his eyes were incomparably weathered, as if he had experienced the changes of the world and was used to the mortal world, proving that he wasn't as young as he looked. In particular, his face gave an extremely cold and gloomy feeling. Around him there were also ice and snow laws surrounding him, forming snowflakes, ice crystals, glaciers and other phenomena. Obviously, the laws were very condensed and formed a forbidden area, and it was getting stronger over time, indicating that this person had reached the peak of the nascent soul stage. That's strange. Not to mention Kai Xiaoqian, the 3 nascent soul elders who we lost contact with are all disciples of the Beihan sect. Their bloodlines have merged and they're living in other people's bodies. Their dharma power is earth-shattering and they're comparable to us. Besides, they're all equipped with supreme-grade Taoist artifacts. Even if we wanted to kill them, we wouldn't dare to fight them head-on. Who can kill them? Besides, we didn't receive any information back then because we blocked immortal will communication. Apparently, the person who did it must be a nascent soul heavenly lord. Qi Jinglei, the person in charge of the Wuya arena, said in a deep voice. Qi Jinglei was skinny, but his energy was as deep as the ocean and as tall as a mountain, giving people a feeling that it was boundless. Qi Jinglei used to be the owner of a famous secret land of the Yin sect. However, after he met the cultivators of the Beidu sect, he was immediately shocked and felt inferior. He changed his sect name and changed it to the Boundless Dao sect. He became the Boundless Dao sect's representative and training organization on Earth. He abandoned the ancestral tablets of his ancestors and claimed to be the grand disciple of the Boundless Dao sect's sect master. He was immensely pleased with himself. Who is it? Is it someone from the Tianqing school? Huang Linger is missing and the other nascent soul cultivators haven't recovered yet. They can't do anything. Zhang Huairan, the leader of the Zhang family, frowned and said. He looked to be in his 60s with white hair, triangular eyes and an aquiline nose. He gave people the feeling that he was an ambitious and cunning old fox. His eyes flickered as his eyeballs rolled. He rubbed his chin and muttered to himself, "That's right. What's more terrifying is that I also received a piece of news. A few hours after the incident at the Snow God's Palace, all the members of the Beidou sect at the Lanyi Academy were killed, including Divine Prince Qianlong. The old man suspects that the two incidents were done by the same person." What? Divine Prince Qianlong was also killed? How is that possible? Who did it? Is there a conflict within the Beidou sect? Everyone was shocked and exclaimed in surprise. Because they thought that no one on earth could kill Divine Prince Qianlong. It can't be the same person. Zheng Yilong, the owner of the Desolation Temple, said coldly, even a peak-stage soul formation cultivator would need at least a day to travel from Yanjin to the Lanyi Academy. How could this person do it? Unless he's a void return saint. Now that they had become the lackeys of the Big Dipper Righteous Alliance, they had learned that there were void return and Dao reunion cultivators above the soul formation cultivators. More importantly, how did Zhang Yilin find the Dharma artifact? What a headache. Zhou Xian, the leader of the Wuxia Guardians and the current sect master of the Kunlun sect, shook his head and heaved a sigh. I heard that Han Ming Zongzi has heard about it and he's furious. He ordered us to kill Zhang Yilin and destroy the Tianqing school as soon as possible. So what if she's dead? The Tianqing school is just an ant. Zhang Yilin didn't know what was good for her and had to release the Dharma artifact. Zhang Huairan sneered. If she hadn't, Han Ming Zongzi would have tried to appease her. He would have used decades or even centuries to turn Earth into the world of the Beihan sect and other sects. And the Tianqing school would have at least 20 to 30 years to survive. Since she has announced it, there's no need for Han Ming Zongzi to pretend anymore. Just kill her. Yeah. She really doesn't know what's good for her. Qi Jinglei also sneered. We humans on Earth are just ants and caterpillars. We're too inferior. Even if it's an invasion, it's still a blessing for Earth. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for evolution. We should welcome them with open arms. The people on Earth are too stupid. They want to relocate and cherish what they have. Qi Jinglei shook his head with disdain as if he were the only one who was sober. He shook his head and said, they're always clinging to the idea of territory and country. They don't know the vastness of the universe and the vastness of the universe. They don't know that once their cultivation level increases, the entire universe will be at their disposal. They definitely won't be willing to give up Earth and let the cultivators of the Beihan sect come. They're full of hatred. It's because of Han Ming Zongzi's wisdom. He had already anticipated this. That's why he allowed the Beidou monsters to invade Earth to train the humans. At the same time, it would make it easier for the Northern Frost sect and the Alliance of Justice and Order to descend on Earth. What's the big deal about sacrificing a few 100,000 people for the overall improvement of the cultivation civilization on Earth? This is the reform, the revolution. Zhou Xian nodded in agreement and sighed with emotion. Since ancient times, there have always been people who shed blood and sacrifice. Let's start with us. Wasn't it normal for all human beings to shed blood and sacrifice in the great process of evolution and sublimation? Some people are just short-sighted, just like village women. At this moment, a golden core cultivator quickly walked over and said in a deep voice, Zhang clan head, I have some unfortunate news. Chapter 1729. Who dares to make trouble at the Zhang family's banquet? You're looking for death. Zhang Huairan was furious after hearing that. In addition to the pain of his grandson's death, he was also furious that his dignity had been offended. After all, everyone in the cultivation world knew that the Zhang family was behind the Kunlun building in Zhangkai. Killing Zhangkai in the Kunlun building, the home of the Zhang family, was equivalent to disrespecting the dragon-slaying Zhang family. I suspect that this person is likely to be related to the Zhang family in Yanjing and the Lanyi Academy. Zhou Xian's eyes flashed coldly and he ordered coldly, full speed ahead. Brothers, don't be merciful. Just kill him. If we really kill the main culprit, he'll definitely die. We can also explain to Han Ming Zongzi. As soon as he said that. Yes, Alliance Master. Several nascent soul heavenly lords present were full of killing intent and their eyes flashed with a sinister cold light. Zhang Kai was killed by Jiang Tian with a wave of his sleeve. At that moment everyone was shocked. At this moment Bai Choufei was full of worry. The white-haired heavenly lord killed Zhang Kai, the young master of the Zhang family, which was equivalent to igniting a barrel of gunpowder. It was bound to lead to the bloody revenge of the Zhang family. Thinking of this, Bai Choufei walked quickly and bowed deeply. He said respectfully and eagerly in a low voice, "Thank you for your help, Senior Heavenly Lord. But you can't stay here for a long time. You'd better leave quickly." Yes. Tang Yu was also worried. Zhao Chenzi didn't say anything and looked complicated. But in her heart she was thinking that if this boy escaped to a faraway place, the Zhang family would probably put this blood debt on Li Huiyan's head. What should she do then? It was better to let him stay and take all the blame. However, she couldn't bring herself to say such selfish words. After all, a few young masters had already set the flames of war on the three girls, and had the intention of taking her and Tang Yu away to play with them. Without Jiang Tian standing up for them, they would have become everything under their feet. Only Li Huiyan stared at Jiang Tian affectionately. Her beautiful eyes were misty and tears rolled down her cheeks. Her emotions were in turmoil and she didn't want others to know. Zhang Yilan stood in the distance and sipped the red wine with relish as if watching a good show. She sighed in her heart, "Li Huiyan's feelings for my cousin are really extraordinary. Even I, a woman, can't help but feel pity for her. It's a pity that my cousin is too frigid. He's been through thousands of flowers, but not a single leaf has tainted his body. What a waste of God's gift. Why should I leave?" Jiang Tian's expression was indifferent. He actually pulled over a chair and sat down, assuming the posture of, "I'm not leaving." He even picked up the plate of fruits and ate with relish. "Wait, they'll have a large number of people." Hearing this, Bai Choufei's eyes were full of anxiety. Facing a nascent soul heavenly lord, he was cautious. Even though he kindly reminded Jiang Tian, he didn't dare to look down on him. Zhao Chenzi remained silent, but a hint of disdain flashed in her eyes. "Why should I leave?" "Because you're in big trouble. The dragon-slaying Zhang family has several nascent soul heavenly lords and their leader, Zhang Huairan, is a top nascent soul heavenly lord. Besides, they have the Kunlun sect, the guardians of Wuxia, the Myth Alliance and the Beihan sect behind them. What do you have to compete with them? No matter how powerful you are, you're just a nascent soul heavenly lord without any background. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. How can you be a match for them?" "Oh, I've been waiting for Zhang Huairan and Zhou Xian." Jiang Tian sipped the champagne and said with a smile, "How can I leave halfway?" He said matter-of-factly, "When the 5 supreme heavenly lords come, I'll kill them all." When everyone heard this, whether it was the people at the scene or the audience in the live stream, they were all dumbfounded. They could not believe it. Is this white-haired heavenly lord crazy? He's too arrogant. No matter how powerful you are, you can't do it alone. How are you going to deal with the large group of people coming in person? Right, they might even be supported by the cultivators from outside the region. He's no match for them. Right, the white-haired heavenly lord is definitely no match for the 5 heavenly lords. But you're still young and there's still room for improvement. There's no need for you to fight them head-on. You should stay away from them and preserve your strength. Right, that's called strategic retreat. Where there's life, there's hope. All kinds of comments appeared on the screen. Some people sighed, some mocked, and some tried to persuade him. In everyone's eyes, Jiang Tian trying to fight the 5 heavenly lords head-on was like trying to hit a rock with an egg, like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. He was overestimating himself. After all, they had all seen how the 5 heavenly lords killed large beasts and dominated the world, even beyond the heavens. The power of the 5 heavenly lords had been deeply rooted in people's hearts. In everyone's opinion, the 5 heavenly lords were invincible. Bai Choufei sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyeballs almost popping out. He had never seen such a suicidal person. Zhao Chenzi also frowned and felt annoyed. How could this kid be so arrogant? He didn't even listen to any kind advice. Even Tang Yu, who had always been overwhelmed by Jiang Tian's divine might, frowned slightly. This white-robed heavenly monarch still dared to speak arrogantly when his life was at stake. Wasn't he being too arrogant? Ji Mingchuan, the Zongzi of the Kunlun sect, is here. While Zhou Xian and the others were thinking, a noise came from the door. He looked up and saw a handsome young man wearing a purple golden crown and a custom-made blue robe. His long hair reached his shoulders and he had a pair of unruly eyes. His Taoist robe had been specially modified. It was not the traditional Taoist robe with wide sleeves. Instead, it was more slim-fitting, almost like a long robe. However, the front and back of the robe were embroidered with the patterns of Yin and Yang, Tai Chi, and the 9 palaces and 8 trigrams. Mingchuan Zongzi. Master Zongzi. Ji Mingchuan. It's him. He's so handsome. Countless tycoons and cultivators bowed to Qin Fan with even more respect than Zhang Kai. Even Qi Zhuoran, Xian, Li Fifan and Mo Yuza were like believers who had seen God. After the arrival of the Beidou star, Ji Muxian's family benefited the most among the cultivation forces in Wuxia. Among the younger generation, Ji Mingchuan was the most outstanding one. He had received personal guidance from Han Ming, the Zongzi of the Beihan sect. Within a year he had entered the Golden Core level and reached the 9th grade Golden Core level. When he formed the nascent soul, he would be a nascent soul seed and would be called a quasi-heavenly lord. Zhang Kai, Qi Zhuoran and Xianxia all respected him and regarded him as their spiritual leader. If he had any orders, they would obey him without question. Zhang Kai is useless. He can't even beat an itinerant cultivator. Why doesn't he just die? Ji Mingchuan walked over and listened to everyone's reports. He was furious and cursed under his breath. The plan was to have the last competition with the Tianqing school to decide the ownership of the 100 Medicine Valley. After the competition, the Tianqing school would withdraw from Wuxia and Sidoni would be the only one left. Before they took action, Ji Mingchuan, who was the person in charge of this competition, had also instructed everyone not to cause unnecessary trouble and cause other conflicts. However, he had never thought that Zhang Kai would be killed for offending Li Huyan. Offending Li Huyan was not a big deal. The point was he was killed. This was too shameful. Standing 10 meters away from Jiang Tian, Ji Mingchuan was stunned for a moment. He also felt that Jiang Tian looked a little familiar, but he couldn't match him to anyone. He then shouted in a dignified manner, "I actually killed Zhang Kai, the eldest son of the dragon-slaying Zhang family. Do you want to become enemies with the China Guardians Alliance?" His shout was like a thunderclap that shook the cultivators present to the point their vital energy and blood roiled, and they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The mortals stumbled backward. Under the violent pressure, many of them knelt down on the spot. This is the power of a 9th grade golden core. The power of a quasi-heavenly lord is too terrifying. Countless people cried out in their hearts. They felt as if they were facing a demon god when facing him. Their minds were shaken and they felt uneasy. Their hearts were about to jump out of their throats. Wouldn't it have been better if you had left earlier? Now that we've attracted a fatal disaster, I'm afraid we can't leave even if we want to. Bai Choufei, Zhao Qinzi and Tang Yuyu were all lamenting. Is so what? Jiang Tian's expression was calm as he leisurely spoke. This caused another uproar. Countless people were shocked. Ji Mingchuan was furious. He suppressed his anger and said, "Let go of Zhang Kai's divine soul. We can still discuss this." "What if I don't?" Jiang Tian withdrew Zhang Kai's faint and illusory soul and held it in his hand as if he was pinching a chick. Then he sneered and replied with a question. Zhang Kai's divine soul was trembling, and he no longer had his original arrogance. He begged pitifully, "Senior white hair and sunglasses, please let me go. Brother Mingchuan, don't do it." Ji Mingchuan's eyes flashed fiercely. He stepped forward and his golden core trembled. The Dharma form formed by 9 swords appeared behind him. He said, "I'll kill you." Good. Come try to kill me. You're far from being able to do that." Jiang Tian looked up to the sky and laughed. His laughter was filled with killing intent and disdain. Suddenly his right hand spat out energy and his magic power surged. Bang! There was a muffled sound. Zhang Kai's divine soul shattered and disappeared. That was the real meaning of death for a golden core perfected cultivator. In an instant there was dead silence. The countless guests couldn't even make the slightest sound. Ji Mingchuan was furious after being ignored by Jiang Tian. His face twisted and his eyes were cold. He pointed at Jiang Tian and the others with his right hand and said, "You've successfully angered me. I, Ji Mingchuan, swear that you and your friends will die here. Bai Choufei and the others were so frightened that their legs went soft. Tang Yuyu's face turned pale. Zhao Qianzi's face was filled with resentment as she said, "First sister, I originally thought that this person's cultivation was heaven-defying and that he might be worth relying on. I didn't expect him to be brainless. He seemed to be helping you but he actually implicated you. Great, we're all going to be unlucky this time." Everyone thought that Ji Mingchuan's threat would scare Jiang Tian. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian was still completely calm and he said indifferently, "I've already given you a chance. But why do you want to court death again and again? Master, why do you have to do it?" At this moment, a large black dog the size of a calf leaped out as if it had appeared out of thin air. The big black dog stood up like a human with one paw on his waist and the other paw pointing at Ji Mingchuan. Chapter 1730. Originally they were looking forward to the battle between Jiang Tian and Ji Mingchuan. Unexpectedly, a big black dog appeared out of nowhere and claimed that it would eat Ji Mingchuan's 9th grade golden core. That was too exciting. What was even more frightening was that from the words of this large black dog, he seemed to have really eaten quite a few golden pills. What kind of dog was that? Undoubtedly it's a dog demon. This dog demon is so domineering. Big black dog, don't be too cool. How dare it claim that it ate Ji Mingchuan's golden core? I have faith in you, you're a dog with a bright future. I also want a dog like that, much more domineering than my husky. In fact, since the recovery of spirit chi, it was not rare for demonic beasts and demons to gain intelligence and speak human language. However, it was rare to see one as crazy as the big black dog. In an instant, all the livestream channels were flooded with comments. As soon as the large black dog appeared, he immediately attracted countless fans. This was especially true for some dog lovers. This big black dog is so annoying. It doesn't know its place, it's just a furry beast. How dare it provoke my brother Mingchuan? Kill it and make it into a dog meat hot pot. My brother Mingchuan is a true disciple of the North Frost sect. He has a 9th grade golden core and has already formed his nascent soul, the #1 genius of the younger generation in Wuxia. This dog is just a demonic beast, what right does it have to provoke him? Haven't most of the demonic beasts been killed and are not allowed to enter human cities? How can this demonic dog still enter? We have to kill it. You reckless dog. Stupid dog. You've offended the king of hell this time. Don't you know that my Chuan Chuan is an expert in hunting demonic beasts and has already killed 20 golden core demonic beasts? However, there were also those who objected and hated it. Most of these people were Ji Mingchuan's little fangirls and female fans, who cursed the big black dog and hated it to the core. Ji Mingchuan was good-looking to begin with and he often did beast hunting livestreams, so the amount of exposure he received was also very shocking. As a result, Ji Mingchuan's popularity in Wuxia was no less than that of popular celebrities and young hunks. Those fangirls were crazy about him. He had many more female fans than Jiang Tian at his peak, and his loyalty was also much higher. After all, Jiang Tian was the kind of person who worked hard. He was not good at and disdained to put on a show, create a persona, interact with fans and so on. Of course, Ji Mingchuan was the most furious. Damn dog, what did you say? At this moment Ji Mingchuan was so angry that his body trembled. His golden core vibrated and the 9 Dharma form swords jumped around. The sword chi was so dense that he almost lost his mind. Ji Mingchuan had obtained the inheritance of the Beihan sect and reached the level 9 golden core. He had already reached the nascent soul level and was known as the Son of God. His strength, in a word, was invincible under the nascent soul stage. Looking at Wuxia, even the leaders of the major cultivation sects and the aristocratic families would bow deeply to him, as if they were mortals meeting a god or commoners meeting an emperor. But a dog, a demon beast, actually said that it wanted to kill him and eat his golden core. At this moment he wished that he could turn the dog into ashes to vent his anger. Bai Choufei, Tang Yuyu and Zhao Qianzi were all stunned. They were speechless and didn't know what to say. Jiang Tian nodded and said, "I'll give it to you." What? Preposterous. You've gone too far. Hearing this, Ji Mingchuan was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He didn't expect that he would agree. Didn't this mean that in the eyes of this white-haired heavenly lord, he was inferior to his dog? Ji Mingchuan felt very wronged at this moment. Ever since the arrival of the Big Dipper, the Ji family of Kunlun had been lucky. Ji Mingchuan, on the other hand, was as powerful as a dragon. Jiang Tian's reputation back then was only on par with his current self. He had never imagined that there would be a day when he would actually be considered inferior to a dog by others. He might not have 100% confidence that he could defeat Jiang Tian. After all, Jiang Tian gave him an unfathomable feeling. It was very possible that he was an old monster that had hidden his cultivation base and suddenly appeared in this world. He still couldn't figure out Jiang Tian's background. But what was a dog demon that hadn't even stepped into the nascent soul stage? All right. Ji Mingchuan, why don't you dig out your own golden core and give it to me to eat, saving me the trouble of doing it myself? At least your soul can be saved. The big black dog wearing big pants stood on his feet and slowly approached. His eyes were high and arrogant to the extreme, as if victory was in his hands. He didn't put Ji Mingchuan in his eyes at all and actually asked him to destroy his own cultivation and offer up his golden core. Damn. The man is crazy, the dog is crazy too. A madman and a mad dog don't be too compatible. Too arrogant. Everyone was stunned. Whether it was in the live broadcast room or at the scene, there were exclamations of disbelief. Go to hell. Ji Mingchuan roared and his Dharma form erupted, turning into 9 flying swords that swept out as fast as lightning. The cold sword chi froze the mountains and rivers. Swish. The cold sword chi was like 9 rainbows, dragging a long tail and piercing towards the big black dog. The moment it exploded, the temperature on the 100th floor of the Kunlun building plummeted by dozens of degrees. The walls were covered with ice crystals and snow filled the air. It was as if the early spring had turned into the coldest winter in an instant. If it weren't for the extraordinary identities of the people present and the protective Dharma artifacts that they bought with a lot of money, they would probably be frozen to death by the terrifying cold wave after the sword chi. They wouldn't even be able to last a minute. Wow. So cool. This long rainbow of sword energy is like a silver waterfall. It's too beautiful, too moving. My Chuan is so strong. No wonder he's the strongest person below the nascent soul stage. Wuxia is the strongest. He's even stronger than Kong Teichu back then. How can Kong Teichu compare to him? Kong Teichu was only at the early stage of the golden core stage back then, and it was an ungraded golden core. But my Chuan is already at the nascent soul stage and has an extremely rare 9th grade golden core. For a moment in the live broadcast room, many of Ji Mingchuan's fans were exclaiming and commenting. Trash. Facing the Dharma form flying swords, the big black dog snorted and stretched out his paw and flicked his fingers. Every time he flicked his fingers, it hit a flying sword. With a series of clangs, the fierce flying sword fell to the ground and turned into a golden core in the shape of a sword pill, unable to struggle. What? He actually used his body to fight against a golden core Dharma form? Is he still human? No, is he still a dog? At this moment, everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. How can this dog's cultivation be so powerful? Rise. At this moment, Ji Mingchuan was scared out of his wits and an unprecedented sense of danger rose in his heart. His divine soul and Dharma power surged, trying to retrieve the Dharma form that was almost destroyed. But it was too late. Come on. The large black dog's large paw stretched out and directly grabbed the sword-shaped golden core, stuffed it into its mouth and started to chew loudly, emitting a strange sound that made one's teeth ache. It had actually chewed this indestructible golden core into pieces and swallowed it whole. The whole place was dead silent. Everyone couldn't believe it. This big black dog actually ate Ji Mingchuan's sword pill raw. This was too terrifying. Chapter 1731. No. After a full 10 seconds, Ji Mingchuan finally realized that he had lost all connection with his golden core and that his dharmic powers were completely depleted. Only then did he realize that his golden core had been snatched away and had become someone else's. Dog, give me back my golden core. He let out a mournful howl and almost burst into tears. Cultivation was a cultivator's second life. Having his golden core snatched away and reduced him to a cripple, this was worse than death. Who is this guy? Everyone looked at Jiang Tian again, and deep shock and astonishment appeared in their eyes. He was too powerful. Ji Mingchuan had too many titles. He was the most powerful young overlord in Wuxia, a golden core cultivator, a nascent soul cultivator, a 9th grade cultivator, the disciple of the Kunlun sect and the most powerful cultivator under the nascent soul heavenly lords. However, he couldn't even defeat his dog. Just how strong was he? At that moment, Ji Mingchuan, who had been staring at Jiang Tian with hatred and shock, suddenly realized something. He gasped and said in a trembling voice, "You're Kong Teichu." There was a big black demonic dog that was extremely powerful, and it was related to Li Huiyan. Who else could it be but Kong Teichu? Because of the teachings of the Beihan sect, Ji Mingchuan had thought that Jiang Tian had died during the interstellar travel. However, after connecting all the dots, he could only come up with one answer. He was Kong Teichu. After Ji Mingchuan said that, everyone went silent. Countless cultivators were stunned at first, and then their gazes fell on the white-haired man who was sitting on the chair and drinking leisurely. Their eyes were filled with extreme shock and disbelief. Kong Te. Those 3 words were like thunder to their ears. That was a terrifying existence who had single-handedly climbed to the top of Wuxia, swept across the world and suppressed the 4 major worlds. He was the real founder of the Spirit Qi revival era. He was the leader of the Myth Alliance. That was also the guide who planted the eternal Taoist foundation for Earth. Although many sects in the Beidu sect had been trying to weaken Jiang Tian's influence and suppress Jiang Tian's power in the past 2 years, a lot of history had been covered up. However, once this name was mentioned, everyone immediately remembered the era of Kong Teichu 5 years ago. They immediately remembered Kong Teichu's invincible and peerless style. Jiang Tian had nothing to hide. He used the creation mysterious art, and his white hair turned black. His face became even more handsome, and he returned to his original appearance. He leisurely took off his sunglasses. His smile was still the same as before as he said faintly, "Time flies by like a white steed. 5 years have passed in the blink of an eye. I didn't think there would still be someone who remembers my name. I thought that this world had already forgotten my name. In the past 5 years, we have all been looking forward to the return of the leader of the Taichu Alliance." Bai Choufei's face revealed a look of realization, shock, and ecstasy. He knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice and tears streaming down his face, "Tianqing School's outer disciple Bai Choufei welcomes the return of the leader of the Taichu Alliance and his return to Earth." So the leader of the Taichu Alliance is back. Tang Yuyu cheered. No wonder he was so confident. It's him. Zhao Chenzi supported his forehead with his hand and suddenly understood. Sure enough, it's really you. Seeing that familiar face, Li Huiyan could no longer control her tears and rolled down. The yearning and worry that had been going back and forth for the past few years seemed to finally be able to fall. At this moment, after finally confirming Jiang Tian's identity, Mo Yuza and Li Fifan were so shocked that their scalps almost exploded. They knelt on the ground one after another. Mo Yuza's face was full of fear as he said sincerely, "In the blink of an eye, the leader of the Taichu Alliance has finally returned. This disciple is really excited. The leader of the Taichu Alliance must have fought in the ruins of immortality and made a name for himself in the Sea of Stars. He returned with a great victory. It's really the fortune of Wuxia and the fortune of Earth." Li Fifan also flattered with a face full of joy. He was so scared that he was trembling and anxious to the extreme. Jiang Tian looked at Mo Yuza and Li Fifan coldly and said in a cold voice, "You are following Ji Mingchuan and Zhang Kai this time. Are you going to be enemies with Tianqing School?" We don't dare. The two trembled with fear and said in a trembling voice, "We are just secular people who don't cultivate the root bone. We follow Zhang Kai just to find a little protection. We have no intention of being enemies with the leader. This disciple is not an ungrateful person. Everything is forced by the situation." Jiang Tian also knew the truth of what the two said. Now that they had entered a new era of spiritual energy recovery, coupled with the arrival of the Big Dipper cultivators, the logic of the world had changed. Cultivation had become the foundation and pillar of the world's operation. They were just holding on to thighs. "Since you don't dare, then get out of my way. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing without batting an eyelid." Jiang Tian waved his sleeve as if to drive away a fly. Yes. Mo Yuza and Li Fifan hurriedly stepped aside as if they had been pardoned. They looked extremely frightened and fearful, fearing that Jiang Tian would kill them if they didn't agree with him. At the same time, Kong Teichu is back. All the livestream rooms were also full of exclamations. Has he returned after defeating the immortal ruins? That's too powerful. No wonder Zhang Yilin suddenly got the image of the brand. There is so much evidence. It turns out that the leader of the Taichu Alliance is behind it. Good. This time the leader of the Taichu Alliance has returned with a strong force. He must settle the score with Zhou Xian and Jeffrey and take back the control of the Myth Alliance. Earth, our ancestral home, a brand new cultivation planet. How can it fall into the hands of the Big Dipper? Jiang Tian's hardcore fans such as Zhou Xian and Xianxia even cheered as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The scheme of the Beihan Zongzi and Han Ming could fool most people but not everyone. Warriors and cultivators such as Zhou Xian and Xianxia had already suspected that the Beidou monsters had suddenly arrived. When they saw the image of the secret meeting between Divine Lord Scorpio and Han Ming, they were even more certain that all of this was a scheme of Han Ming Zongzi. However, even if they knew that Han Ming was behind it, there was nothing they could do. Because the opponent was too powerful. But then Jiang Tian had returned and they saw a glimmer of hope. Everyone stared at the screen in the livestream room. Under the pressure of Jiang Tian's might, clatter. Xing Xian, Qizhuaran and the other members of the 5 Heavenly Lord families in Wuxia were trembling and their faces were as pale as paper. Kong Taichu had come back from the immortal ruins alive. If he destroyed the immortal ruins and returned, didn't it mean that he had the power to kill more than one soul formation cultivator? That would be terrifying. No matter whether Han Ming Zongzi or Zhou Xian and the other new nascent soul cultivators on Earth could defeat Jiang Tian, at least they were sure that those new golden core cultivators were definitely not enough to deal with Jiang Tian. Even Ji Mingchuan, the most powerful one among them, was too weak. The truth was as obvious as a flea on a bald head. Ji Mingchuan's power was even weaker than Jiang Tian's dog. After confirming that it was Jiang Tian, Ji Mingchuan also fell into deep fear. He bowed and pretended to smile enthusiastically. I can't believe that Senior Kong Taichu, the pillar of the cultivation world in Wuxia, has returned. This is really a blessing for us and a great event for Earth. It will definitely make the whole world cheer. Haha, you're exaggerating. Jiang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly and he laughed with ridicule as he said, "Didn't you openly say that this isn't my era anymore? Didn't you say that I'm a sinner of Earth because I formed a mythical alliance with the monsters?" After hearing what he said, everyone went silent. Everyone could feel the suffocating killing intent that Jiang Tian was emitting. Chapter 1732. Ji Mingchuan's smile also froze on his face. He then said with a wry smile, "Please forgive me, Senior. I was indeed ignorant. It's just a small misunderstanding. I'm sure you won't hold it against me with your magnanimity." A small misunderstanding? Jiang Tian sneered when he heard that. He leisurely took a sip of red wine and said coldly, "Then let me ask you, were the dojos of the Tianqing school in Wuxia snatched by the 5 new heavenly lords? Then let me ask you, were my disciples Yi Tianren, Hu Qingtian and Alexander of the Moon Wolf clan sent to the Martian battlefield as cannon fodder? Answer me, were the members of the Myth Alliance Ao Bing by Su Juan, and the others killed by the 5 heavenly lords? Answer me, were my grandfather Zhang Jinghua and Zhang Yilan of the Zhang family humiliated and forced by you? Then answer me, is it a small misunderstanding after so many people died?" With every question Jiang Tian asked, Ji Mingchuan's face turned paler. By the time Jiang Tian finished speaking, his face was already paler than a corpse that had been dead for 3 days. Large beads of cold sweat trickled down his forehead like a small stream, and his body couldn't help but tremble. "Senior Taichu, your black dog has already destroyed my cultivation. What else do you want?" Ji Mingchuan finally squeezed out a sentence with difficulty. "You also know that I, Kong Taichu, have never been magnanimous. I'm narrow-minded and vengeful." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "A blood debt naturally has to be repaid with blood. You and all the lackeys of the Big Dipper sect have to die. Senior Taichu also knows that I'm a member of the Big Dipper sect." There was a dead silence. After a long time, Ji Mingchuan curled up like a quail. After a long time he raised his head and looked straight at Jiang Tian. "To be honest, I'm the disciple of Han Ming, the Zongzi of the Beihan sect. Do you know what will happen to you if you kill me?" "Zongzi of Han Ming? Is it that great?" Jiang Tian's black hair fluttered in the wind. He raised his jade-like right hand and bent a finger. "Then let's destroy the freezing North sect and wipe out all the enemies from the outer realms." Stop. At this time, a thunderous roar suddenly came from the horizon. Ji Mingchuan also felt an invisible force pulling him out of the hall and into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he was already 1,000 meters away. Can he be saved? Jiang Tian's expression was cold as he flicked his finger. A golden finger beam, like a bullet fired from a Barrett sniper rifle, streaked across the sky and chased after Ji Mingchuan. This finger light didn't contain any laws. It was purely condensed from 7th metal true essence, but it could definitely kill an ordinary nascent soul cultivator. Father and the heaven monarchs are here. Ji Mingchuan smiled. In the next moment he felt as if he had been hit by a rocket. Even the protective aura that Zhou Xian had condensed for him could not withstand it and was torn apart in an instant. Even his physical body and divine soul were shattered by this vast force and exploded like fireworks. The young peerless genius and the disciple of the Zhongzi of the freezing north sect were nothing in front of Jiang Tian. Meanwhile, the audience in front of the screen were all dumbfounded. What? My Chuan was killed. Why is Kong Teichu so vicious? He's stirring up a storm of blood as soon as he comes back. Countless female fans of Ji Mingchuan were dumbfounded. They hugged each other and cried. They hated Jiang Tian to the core. There was nothing they could do about it. There were always some die-hard fans in any era. These people didn't care about justice and wouldn't analyze the big picture. They only acted based on their feelings. Kong Teichu, you killed my beloved son. I won't let you go until I'm dead. A loud roar was heard, shaking many glass walls and causing them to collapse. It was full of anger. A man in a Taoist robe flew from afar and stopped in the air. As soon as this figure arrived, an overwhelming cold sword will, like a cold wave, instantly enveloped the entire Kunlun building and even half of Jin City. The laws rumbled and clanged. The sword chi shot up to the sky and seemed to be able to crush the Kunlun building and tear the sky apart. A nascent soul heavenly lord. Even with the protection of the talisman arrays, people still felt uncomfortable and terrified. They felt as if their divine souls were going to be destroyed in the next second. Everyone looked up. 5 figures stood proudly in the sky, 10 miles apart from each other. They surrounded the Kunlun building in a fan-shaped formation. Some of them were cold, some were as majestic as mountains, some were filled with murderous intent and some were filled with black smoke. Each of them had the rumbling of laws, as if they had merged with the world and affected a certain great path. Ji Muxian, Zhang Huairan, Zi Yilong, Yangchen, Qi Jinglei, Huaxia's 5 supreme heavenly lords are here. In an instant, everyone in the building and the audience in front of the screen were shocked. Senior Tai Chu just came back and he's already in a tight encirclement. Is he going to die here? God is so heartless that he has to kill the Earth's genius? As for Bai Choufei and the other staunch supporters of Jiang Tian, great waves were set off in their hearts. They revealed worried expressions and sighed. How did they come so fast? Sigh, we should have fled 1,000 miles away to avoid them. Li Huiyan and Tang Yiyu also couldn't help but grab Zhao Chenzi's small hand. Their beautiful eyes were full of panic. At this moment, many of the audience who supported Jiang Tian felt as if their chests were pressed by a huge rock. They couldn't breathe and couldn't say a word. 5 powerful nascent soul heavenly lords. What kind of concept was that? Before the recovery of spirit chi, the entire Earth, including many secret realms and the several dimensional worlds of the solar system, didn't even have a nascent soul heavenly lord. Even now, a nascent soul heavenly lord was enough to dominate the world and be invincible. Everyone on Earth didn't know Jiang Tian's strength at this time, so it was impossible for them not to be worried. The 5 most powerful heavenly lords are here. Who can resist such a luxurious lineup? Zhang Shisan clenched his fists tightly and his eyes were full of despair. He couldn't wait to go to the scene immediately and fight side by side with Jiang Tian. This bunch of Big Dipper lackeys had already discussed this beforehand. They wanted to use this gathering to force the Tianqing sect to bow their heads and force them to withdraw from Wuxia completely, weakening Grand Primordium's power. In front of the screen, Chao Jinjia, who had successfully formed her core, looked bitter. The other supporters of Jiang Tian could only smile bitterly. Facing such a luxurious lineup, everyone wanted to be muggles. Even a soul formation overlord would have to be careful. After all, these people had received the inheritance of the Beihan sect and reached the ultimate level. It's just an ant. I killed it. Do you have a problem with that? Jiang Tian looked calm. Suddenly he raised his hand and grabbed Zhou Xian from the crowd. "Senior Taichu, please spare my life. How dare you kill me?" While he was begging for mercy and Tsing Yilong was shouting, Jiang Tian shook his right arm and turned him into a mist of blood. "Kong Taichu, you're so arrogant." Tsing Yilong's eyes were bloodshot as he shouted. His son was killed right in front of him. "How dare you? Do you really want to fight to the death with us? If you surrender now and wait for the Beihan Sect's verdict, you might still have a chance to live." Qi Jinglei's skinny body was like a mountain under the influence of the Dharma laws. He threatened loudly. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian released a bit of his Dharma power and turned the entire hall into an iron plate. He wanted to save his son Qi Zhuoran, but he couldn't do anything. He was under the control of others, so he didn't want to harm Jiang Tian. He could only try to make Jiang Tian recognize reality and make him surrender without any resistance. However, he didn't know the truth. "Haha, do you think you can make me fight to the death with you? Even if Han Ming Zongzi is here, do you think he's worthy?" Jiang Tian pointed at Qi Zhuoran's head and exploded it. His brain and skull flew everywhere. Qi Zhuoran's headless body fell to the ground. His divine soul had been destroyed and he was truly dead. 5 years ago, when Jiang Tian had just reached the core formation level, he would have had to run away if he encountered such a nascent soul heavenly lord, not to mention 5 of them. But then Jiang Tian was much more powerful than before. He could kill many soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deity as if he were cutting grass. 5 nascent soul cultivators were nothing to him. At this moment the world became silent. The entire world was dead silent. Senior Taichu is still the Senior Taichu. He's still so decisive and ruthless. Zhang Shisan and Chao Jinjia gasped and exclaimed. Chapter 1733. The first time Jiang Tian made a public appearance after his return, he directly killed 4 of the 5 Lords of Heaven's children in front of their elders and ancestors. This was to make them feel so much pain that they would rather die. It also made it clear that there was no possibility of peace talks. He would not rest until one of them was dead. Although the outcome was still unknown, Jiang Tian was the only one in the world who could be so decisive and ruthless. Jiang Tian was the only one. At this moment their blood was boiling and they couldn't wait to roar at the sky. "Kong Taichu, you are so arrogant." Seeing his children killed with his own eyes, Qi Jinglei felt like his heart was being cut by a knife. He was so angry that he vomited blood, his teeth were almost broken and his eyes were almost spitting fire. "Kong Taichu, do you think this is still the era 5 years ago when you dominated alone? Now that the Big Dipper has arrived, the world has changed greatly and many orthodoxies have reached the limit. It is no longer your world. What right do you have to stir up a storm of blood and do whatever you want?" Yang Chen's breath was cold and he shouted majestically, "You are courting death. Come out and fight." Ji Muxian's sword chi was dense and he shouted with a sonorous voice. "Even if you defeated the semi-god realm cultivators in the ruins of immortality, so what? Those you killed were just some gradeless semi-god realm cultivators. Their strength may not be comparable to us nascent soul cultivators." Qi Jinglei was also full of confidence. His eyes were full of disdain and his killing intent was overflowing. He shouted coldly, "Today I will let you know what a real 9th grade nascent soul cultivator is." So far you still have many believers. Zhang Huairan gritted his teeth, his face was ferocious and his triangular eyes were full of resentment. He said gloomily, "You came at the right time today. Under the witness of the whole world we will kill you and break your legend. The expressions of your believers will be very interesting." "Are you done?" Under the gazes of countless people, Jiang Tian stepped out and flew out of the building. He stood in the air above the Qinhuai River and said indifferently, "You are just a few useless nascent soul cultivators and you think too highly of yourself. A frog at the bottom of a well wants to kill me? Arrogant. How dare you? Kill him." The 5 nascent soul heavenly lords were enraged. Viciousness flashed in their eyes and their bodies were full of viciousness. Ji Muxian's nascent soul roared. With a shake of his sleeves, the endless sword chi precepts transformed into a sword chi dragon that was several hundred meters long. It slashed towards Jiang Tian. The sword chi dragon was densely packed with precious swords. There were more than tens of thousands of them. In an instant, it cut through the void within a radius of 10 miles. The turbulent Qinhuai River below was like a violent tornado. The turbid waves surged to the sky, and the raging waves beat against the shore. They were at least 100 meters tall, as if they were going to drown Gold City and destroy the entire world. Senior Tai Chu, Alliance Master. Jiang Tian. At this moment in the building, Jiang Tian's family, friends, supporters and followers all exclaimed in front of the screen. Their faces were filled with worry and even despair. How strong was Zhou Xian's limit ascension now? He was at the peak stage of the nascent soul level, close to the soul formation level. That slash was extremely powerful and was comparable to an attack from a soul formation level cultivator. It was more than 100 times more powerful than the Tunga's ancient lake. It could definitely uproot the entire Kunlun building and wipe it off the face of the earth. But, Zhou Xian, I've given you 5 years. I can't believe you haven't improved at all. Jiang Tian sneered and looked indifferent. There was disdain in his eyes as he ignored the sword Qi dragon. I gave you a chance, but you didn't take it. When the sword Qi dragon was less than a few hundred meters away from him, he suddenly exhaled and shouted, "Go away." More than half of Gold City shook violently and the sky twisted as if endless power had descended. The stars in the sky shook and the entire world seemed to be about to collapse. Then he saw the countless laws of Sword Qi being utterly defeated and swept away. But 10 miles away, Zhou Xian suddenly let out a miserable howl. His eyes were filled with endless fear as the laws of his body disintegrated. His flesh and spirit embryo exploded with a loud bang. His inch-sized nascent soul managed to escape, but it only lasted for a snap of a finger before it also exploded. Only the storage ring was left. Jiang Tian purposely kept it. He raised his hand and took it. At this moment, there was dead silence in the sky and on the ground. Everyone's expression froze and their eyes were glazed. Zhou Xian, a peak-stage 9th grade nascent soul heavenly lord who had the support of the Beihan sect, exploded after Jiang Tian shouted. Wasn't Jiang Taichu a little too strong? Cultivator Mu Xian. Sec Master Ji. For a moment, the other 4 nascent soul stage cultivators subconsciously exclaimed, with intense shock and disbelief written all over their faces. No one could believe what they had just seen. Li Huiyan's eyes widened and she covered her red lips with her hand. She murmured, How is this possible? How did he become so powerful? He's as powerful as a soul formation overlord. He's not a golden core or nascent soul cultivator. Is he really the one who killed Divine Prince Chenlong? In a blink, the 4 nascent soul heavenly lords fell back in fear. Xing Yilong suddenly cupped his fists and said, Divine Prince Hanch, please help us. Kill Kongti. We can't stop him. What? Divine Prince Hanch is here too? No wonder the 5 nascent soul heavenly lords dared to face Kong Techu. They have cultivators from other planets helping them. Whether it was the people in the building or the people in front of the screen, they all panicked and were stunned. Divine Prince Hanch was Han Ming Zongzi's right-hand man. The power of a half-soul formation grand cultivator from other planets was terrifying. He wasn't any weaker than the soul formation grand cultivators of the monsters on Earth. He could kill nascent soul monsters as easily as cutting vegetables. This time Jiang Tian might not be able to do it. Divine Prince Hanch is here. Kong Techu, what can you do? HM. No matter how strong Kong Techu is, he's only powerful in a small place like Earth. How can he be a match for Divine Prince Hanch? Hanch Shensi, kill him and avenge our Chuan Chuan. Jiang Taichu, let's see how arrogant you can be. Continue being arrogant if you dare. Divine Prince Hanch is invincible. The country bumpkin Jiang Taichu is no match for him at all. He can only kneel and beg for mercy. For a moment, Ji Mingchuan's female fans who had been dispirited by Jiang Tian's blow came back to life on the spot and spammed the bullet screen crazily in the live stream channel, gloating and wishing that Hanch Shensi could tear Jiang Tian into pieces immediately. Those people had been completely brainwashed by the cultivators from other planets. In their eyes, the cultivation civilization of the Beidou planet was superior to that of Earth. And Jiang Tian was just a bumpkin who couldn't be compared at all. It was a strange phenomenon, but it wasn't uncommon in life. Many women would think that a Wuxia man who earned $1 million a year was inferior to a foreign loser who couldn't earn more than a few thousand yuan a year. It was almost crazy and not rational. Chapter 1734. Stop running. At this moment they saw a man in a golden battle suit, a purple gold crown and black iron battle boots. His face was handsome and chiseled, and he looked majestic like a god descending from the heavens. Divine Prince Han Che, you're finally here. Xing Yilong was overjoyed as if he had seen his savior. He knelt in the air and kowtowed 3 times. Then he pointed at Jiang Tian and said, Divine Prince, this is the most evil person on earth, Kong Techu. He has repeatedly stirred up a reign of terror and slaughtered his way through. He wants to overthrow the rule of Divine Son Han Ming. You must quickly kill him. Divine Prince, do it now. This kid is rebellious and unruly. As the most evil person on earth, we must kill him while he's still weak. The other 3 nascent soul overlords were also thrilled. Not only had Han Che arrived, Qin Shi Fairy and Elder Pan Xing had also arrived. There were dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords and each of them was powerful. Bang! Han Che raised his hand and slapped Xing Yilong's head. Bang! Xing Yilong was caught off guard. He didn't even have time to use the Dharma laws of the nascent soul to defend himself. His body and nascent soul exploded like an eggshell under the pressure of Mount Tai. What? Everyone was dumbfounded again. The other 3 nascent soul heavenly lords on earth were even more dumbfounded. The 3 supreme-grade true artifacts released by Hanch Divine Prince had already landed on them and bound them tightly. What happened? Wasn't Han Che Divine Prince Han Ming's subordinate? Wasn't he here to help us? Why did he attack us all of a sudden? But what shocked them even more was yet to come. Greetings, Divine Prince of the Taichu. I've captured these 3 evildoers. Senior Taichu will deal with them now. Hanch Shensi led many Big Dipper cultivators to kneel in the void and kowtow to Jiang Tianxing. Their bodies were trembling and their faces were full of fear, as if they had seen the greatest god. The entire place went silent for a moment. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at this godlike Han Che godchild. Like a subject meeting the emperor, he prostrated himself before Jiang Tian. A dignified divine son from outside the realm actually. At this moment the billions of people in front of the screen were all dumbfounded. They couldn't believe what they had just seen. Especially the fans of the cultivators from other planets, the ones who worshipped Hanch Divine Prince and thought that Jiang Tian would definitely lose, felt as if their faces had been slapped swollen. Even Chao Jinjia, Zhang Shisan and the others opened their mouths wide enough to swallow a pear. They looked at the man with black hair and black eyes standing in the air, looking down at Hanch Shensi like a god. They couldn't say a word. What? Han Che Divine Prince, a half-step soul formation cultivator, has surrendered to him. But the most shocked were undoubtedly the few Wuxia Supreme Nascent Soul cultivators. Qi Jinglei was stunned on the spot and couldn't believe it. He is Han Ming Zongzi's right-hand man. How can he be in cahoots with Kong Techu, an ant from Earth? Yang Chen was also dumbfounded. Han Che Divine Prince must have encountered him before and lost to Kong Techu. That's why he worships him. Kong Techu is still Kong Techu, still the most powerful and terrifying existence on this planet. Zhang Huairan suddenly understood. He screamed in his heart and the corners of his eyes twitched crazily. He was so scared that he peed his pants and shouted, Leader Tai, I know my mistake. I admit defeat. Please forgive me for offending you. At this moment he really regretted it. One careless move and the whole game was lost. He had underestimated Kong Techu after all. It's not a big deal to offend me. The point is you betrayed Earth and abandoned your home. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold. He first raised his hand and took their storage bags and storage rings, then said coldly, So, you all have to die. No. In the screams of the 3 nascent soul heavenly lords, Jiang Tian flicked his fingers and a Gungjin finger aura burst out every time. Kong Techu, we've already surrendered but you still want to kill us. You're so cruel and vicious. You'll suffer retribution. My descendants, the Beihan sect, will avenge me. Seeing that Jiang Tian was ruthless, Zhang Huairan and the other 2 screamed in despair, but they couldn't change the tragic outcome. Bang bang bang. 3 explosions sounded consecutively. The 3 nascent soul cultivators didn't have the slightest power to resist. Their spirit embryos were broken and their nascent souls were destroyed. Their bodies and divine souls exploded uncontrollably and turned into nothingness in the end. Your threats reminded me of something. When I first formed the Myth Alliance, I noticed the existence of the Zhang family. But I thought that you were just a member of the Yin sect and didn't care about worldly affairs, so I didn't suppress you. As for Zhou Xian, I even let him off and didn't kill him to the last one. But I didn't expect that you would be in cahoots with the cultivators from other planets and attack your homeland. Jiang Tian's face was as cold as steel without a trace of emotion. His eyes were extremely cold and his voice was as cold as ice. It seems like you're treating my kindness as weakness. Then I'll show you how cruel I am. I'll let you know how miserable the consequences of betraying me, Jiang Taichu. Then he waved his right hand in the air and 5 palm-sized balls of blood slowly gathered and rippled like waves. The 5 balls of blood gradually condensed into 5 blood-colored runes. They were oddly shaped and difficult to understand. They did not belong to the language on Earth, but they gave people a strange feeling that they were connected to all things. It was as if they were connected to the past and the present, connecting the world. Cut the cause and effect, bloodline curse. Jiang Tian let out a deep growl. Thin blood threads suddenly shot out from the 5 symbols, piercing into the depths of the void. Meanwhile, the golden lake on Jiang Tian's forehead rippled like a deep vertical pupil. The black suppressing hell demon god's soul extended out from it, instantly splitting into hundreds and thousands of strands. They chased after the strands of blood, reaching thousands of miles away. Jiang Tian wiped away the immortal will seals on the 5 nascent soul heavenly lords' storage rings and storage bags. Whoosh! Hundreds of soul tablets lined up in the air, emitting a bright light. Each of them represented the life of a disciple who was closely related to them. Meanwhile, in a secret base in Yanjin thousands of miles away, a gloomy young man wearing the uniform of a senior member of the Guardians of Wuxia was watching the live broadcast in a panic. Kong Taichu killed 5 nascent soul heavenly lords and even our ancestral patriarch, Zhou Xian, died. Brother, what should we do? The world is going to change. Kong Taichu is a vengeful person. He'll definitely wipe out the Ji family and not let anyone go. The other disciple of the Ji clan was so frightened that his legs trembled as he spoke in a trembling voice. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that the Ji family, who had just obtained the support of the foreign cultivators to dominate China's cultivation world and establish an everlasting legacy, would collapse in a single night. They watched him build a tower and entertain guests only to see it collapse. Jiang Tian had formed the Myth Alliance because the ruins of deity were too powerful, so he wanted to unite all the forces that could be united. But then he was so powerful that he had already dominated the ruins of deity and had the ability to fight with the Baidu civilization. He wouldn't pretend to be polite to the traitors on Earth. He would definitely kill and not let any of them go. Yiku is still in our hands. She's the only child left of the Yi family which is closest to Kong Taichu. If we take her away, Kong Taichu won't be able to do anything to us. The disciple of the Ji family gritted his teeth and snickered. Chapter 1735. Ji Mingchuan had been coveting Yi Karen for a long time. Although Yi Tianren and Yi Zhantian had died in the battle against the Baidu monsters. Later, Yi Karen, who supported Jiang Tian, was also seriously injured in the fight for the control of the Myth Alliance. However, Ji Mingchuan didn't want to kill her. He hoped that one day he could use both hard and soft tactics to get close to her, so he imprisoned her in this place. Yes. How could I forget about this? We still have one last card. As they spoke, the 2 Ji family disciples revealed a smile of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. They opened a heavily guarded prison and coldly shouted at a pale-faced woman who was barely breathing. Yi Karen, come with us. Let me go. One day when Kong Taichu comes back you will be killed. Let me go today and maybe I will let you go one day. Yi Karen was lying on the dirty bed. His face was pale and haggard. His cultivation had been crippled and he was almost like a mortal. He was thin and weak from hunger, but his eyes were still filled with boundless killing intent and deep hatred. In fact, she regretted it very much. Back then, why did he show mercy and let Zhou Xian, Yi Yuhui and the others go? In the end, he had nurtured a tiger and brought calamity upon himself. When these people grew stronger, they immediately became the lackeys of Big Dipper. Putting aside the fact that his family members were killed, they even implicated many other innocent people. So what if Kong Taichu comes back? We have the Beihan sect and Han Ming Zongzi behind us. The 2 disciples of the Ji family, who were already very scared and resentful, were greatly stimulated when they heard this. They almost collapsed. They danced and shouted hysterically, no matter how strong Jiang Taichu is, he is just a nascent soul realm cultivator. But Han Ming Zongzi has more than 10 semi-god realm cultivators. The Ji family will never lose. The Yi family is about to be destroyed. They seem to be venting and comforting themselves. Suddenly, a suspicion appeared in their minds. But why is she looking at me as if she has seen a ghost? Sigh, that's not right. Why is my chest so hot as if it's being roasted? What is this? Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the two Ji family disciples who were originally roaring suddenly had crimson flames erupt from their chests. These flames were as red as blood and instantly spread throughout their bodies. Their heads, torsos, and limbs were instantly engulfed by the terrifying vermilion bird flames. The few prison guards who had followed him were so scared that they screamed miserably and peed their pants. They dodged to the side in a panic. But strangely enough, although these two balls of flames were ferocious, they seemed to have a mind of their own. They only burned 2 of the Ji clan's disciples to death, and the others, not even a blade of grass or a tree were affected. In just a few seconds the 2 Ji clan disciples turned into green smoke, not even leaving behind a trace of ash, completely disappearing from this world. I heard that Kong Teichu has the bloodline curse technique and can kill people from thousands of miles away. Could it be that the prison guards looked at each other. They were so scared that they were about to go crazy. Hurry up and release Miss Yi. Otherwise we'll all die. Miss Yi, please forgive us for our disrespect. We had no choice. Tai Chu Sr. has returned. If he asks, please put in a good word for us. Everyone hurriedly removed the shackles and handcuffs on Yi Karen's body, then kowtowed and begged for mercy. What? Sect Master Tai Chu is back? Yi Karen couldn't believe it. He's back. And he killed 5 nascent soul heavenly lords at the Kunlun building in Jin City. A prison guard handed over a phone with a trembling voice. It was playing the scene of Jiang Tian killing in Jin City. Tai Chu Sr., you're finally back. I knew it. You wouldn't die in the ruins of deity. Heaven has not forsaken earth. Yi Karen was so happy that tears rolled down his cheeks. Zhonghai. On the bank of the Huangpu River, the moon was shining brightly in the sky and the skyscraper stood proudly. Lady Wu, you've hidden it well. You look like a member of the royal family, but you're actually a member of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. Now hand over all the worldly wealth and cultivation resources of the Wu family. Come back to the demon-suppressing heavenly prison with me and wait for the verdict. If you dare to resist, don't blame me for being merciless. On the top floor of the skyscraper, Zhang Juyuan, Zhang Huairan's beloved son and a level 3 nascent soul cultivator, was surrounded by a group of golden core and nascent soul cultivators. He put his hands behind his back and looked at Lady Wu disdainfully. I can't hide it anymore. Dressed in a business suit and high heels, Martial Demon Yang, who looked like a strong woman in the workplace, sighed with a complicated expression. Indeed, Wu Yaonyang's ancestor Wu Mainyang belonged to the Nine-Tailed Fox demon clan. Therefore, when Jiang Tian saw Wu Yaonyang for the first time during the battle against the door to heaven at the Lansong River, he gave her the evaluation of a femme fatale with overwhelming demonic aura. But Jiang Tian didn't expose her. Firstly, Jiang Tian didn't care about the bloodlines of humans and demons. Instead, he adhered to the law of behavior. Those who are kind to me are kind and those who are evil. As long as they were of the same mind, no matter whether they were demons or monsters, as long as they were of the same mind, they would accept everything. Secondly, after thousands of years of intermarriage with humans, the demon bloodline in Lady Wu's generation was extremely thin. It was only 1/10. So Lady Wu's demon bloodline had always been extremely hidden. In the 2 years when the Big Dipper clan descended and demons wreaked havoc on the land, the Wu family didn't suffer much impact. They even secretly saved many demons who followed Jiang Tian. But they didn't expect that the dragon-slaying Zhang family would still find them with some clues. I also know that you're collecting resources to eliminate the Big Dipper clan. After thinking for a while, the martial demon lady smiled and said in a sweet voice, as a hidden royal family, my Wu family has the responsibility of protecting China. Naturally, it is our duty to do so. I can give you all my wealth and cultivation resources. But if you send us to the dragon-slaying heavenly prison, Lady Wu will be wronged. I'm not a demon. She had been in the mortal world for a long time and was very quick-witted. If she lost the heavenly materials and earthly treasures, she could still earn them back. Besides, when Senior Kong Teichu comes back, we can take them back 10 times more. It's not up to you to decide whether you're a demon or not. I only need to take out the dragon-revealing mirror given by the Beihan sect and you'll show your true form. Do you really want to try? Zhang Jun snorted coldly with a fake smile. Senior, the Wu family and you don't have to interfere. Why do you have to be so aggressive? Lady Wu's face froze and her body trembled. Demons and humans are different. The dragon-slaying Zhang family has always been suppressing demons, upholding justice and protecting the righteous path. We'll kill any demon we see. There's nothing to say. We're not targeting the fox demon Wu family. Zhang Jiyuan's face was full of righteousness. He flicked his sleeves impatiently and said coldly, "Give up your fantasy. Don't make me wait too long. Otherwise don't blame me for being ruthless and killing demons. Don't go too far when you do things. Senior, do you really think Kong Teichu won't come back to settle the score with you? Why do you think the image of Divine Lord Scorpio and Zhongzi Hanming's secret meeting was leaked?" Lady Wu said. "Fine, I guess the dust has settled. I won't hide it from you anymore." Zhang Jiyuan's face didn't change. He said confidently, "I knew it and so did the 5 most powerful Divine Lords. They're already on their way to the Kunlun Plaza to kill Kong Teichu. Besides, do you know that Divine Prince Hanch is also going to attack? He's a half-step soul formation cultivator." Hearing those words, Lady Martial Demon's expression changed enormously. Divine Prince Hanch. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Divine Prince Hanch was invincible during the battle against the monsters. He killed nascent soul cultivators like cutting grass and was even on par with some divine lords of the monsters. Kong Teichu was only a golden core cultivator when he left the ruins of deity. After 5 years he's only a nascent soul cultivator. How can he be a match for Divine Prince Hanch? This time, after eliminating Jiang Taichu, the dragon-slaying Zhang family could be said to be one of the top forces on Earth. No one will be able to compete with them. A golden core cultivator next to him bragged. After today the Zhang family might even have the chance to follow the grand cultivators of the 7-star sect to the sky. They're bound to rise. Everyone looked at Zhang Jiyuan with burning eyes. As Zhang Huairan's son, he definitely had the chance to be taken to the 7-star sect by the grand cultivators and rise in status. If they clung to him they would certainly receive endless benefits. Ha ha ha. Zhang Jiyuan laughed. He'd been waiting for this day for too long. In fact, even if the cultivators of the 7-star sect determined that Kong Teichu had died in the ruins of deity or the dead universe, they still couldn't find his body. The name Kong Teichu had always been a stone in their hearts, making them feel uneasy every day when they thought about it. But after this battle, everything would be fine. They would be free of worries forever. But then a golden core cultivator walked over and whispered, "There's a change in the situation." Zhang Jun seemed to have heard the whispers of the devil. His face changed drastically and he broke out in cold sweat. His body couldn't help but tremble. "Prepare the crystal ship. Let's go. To the outer space city." Zhang Jun couldn't wait any longer. He turned around and left like a stray dog. Why did he suddenly leave? Lady Wu got up and looked at them in disbelief. Then she saw a scene that she would never forget for the rest of her life. Zhang Jun, who had been as ferocious a moment ago, had just dashed out of the skyscraper toward the crystal warship hovering in midair when he was suddenly enshrouded in a cluster of red flames. Even the descendants of the Zhang family were burnt into smoke in the next moment. Under the night sky, the red flames were extremely beautiful and moving. "The Taichu Senior has returned and won a great victory in the Gold City." Luo Fei hurried in from outside. She was so excited that tears were running down her face. The same thing happened not only in the heavenly prison of the capital city, but also in the moon tower of Zhonghai, and even in the secret lands abroad. The descendants of the 5 heavenly lord families in the secret realms turned into smoke in front of their friends and captives. The elites of the noble families who had been chasing after the demons or Jiang Tian's supporters suddenly burst into flames and turned into ashes in the mountains. After all, Wuxia was an important place for cultivation after the recovery of spirit qi. Cultivators accounted for 1/3 of the world's population. What happened here would definitely affect the overall situation of global cultivation. The internet was in an uproar. Kong Teichu is back. When they saw the scene of Jiang Tian killing the 5 heaven monarchs of Wuxia, the whole world was in an uproar. For many ordinary people, Zhang Tian's deeds of restoring Earth's spirit qi, publicizing basic cultivation techniques, planting a Tao foundation for Earth and establishing the Myth Alliance, although they had been deliberately erased by the extraterrestrial cultivators, were still like yesterday. He used to be the most powerful cultivator on Earth and several other dimensions. Unfortunately, after crossing the Sea of Stars and entering the ruins of deity, no one knew whether he was alive or not. This made many knowledgeable people sigh. Today, most of the people who believed in the Beihan sect's conspiracy were welcoming and excited. When Xianxia arrived, the atmosphere froze in an instant. Many people looked at the screen and were terrified. They were extremely nervous, worried that Zhang Tian would be killed. Who would have thought that Xianxia had already been frightened by Zhang Tian and knelt down to surrender? Xianxia, why did you kneel down to the leader of the Taichu Alliance? What made you make such a difficult decision to abandon Hanming Zongzi and stand on the side of the leader of the Taichu Alliance? Zhang Yilin recovered her appearance and led many reporters to interview Xianxia. I followed Hanming Zongzi for the sake of interstellar peace and justice. But I didn't expect him to be a despicable man who manipulated the interstellar war and deceived the world. Since I've already seen his true face, how can I continue to be his accomplice? Xianxia was wearing a suit of armor and looked like an ancient god of war. He talked to a group of reporters in modern clothes in front of the camera, forming a strange scene. But everyone was already used to it. After the recovery of spirit qi, technology and cultivation were mixed and the future and history were mixed. There were too many scenes like this. But aren't you afraid of Hanming Zongzi's revenge? Zhang Yilin asked. I'm not afraid, as we have the Taichu Divine Lord. Xianxia said calmly with his hands behind his back. Divine Lord? Has the leader of the Taichu Alliance reached the soul formation level? A reporter noticed this detail and exclaimed. The power of the Taichu Senior isn't something we can see. Xianxia smiled but didn't say anything. Next to him, the beautiful Qianxi fairy walked over. She looked at Zhang Tian with awe, adoration in her eyes and said softly, Zhang Tian, you're the most powerful man in the world. But we've seen with our own eyes how Senior Taichu killed Divine Lord Tai Sha, the 4 Divine Lords of the Beihan sect, Astral Fire, Treading Sword, Green Miasma and Eerie Darkness in an hour, forcing Divine Lord Scorpio to commit suicide as an apology. Such a battle record, no matter what level he is at, certainly deserves the title of Divine Lord. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Astral Fire, Treading Sword. The names of those divine lords were too terrifying. Tai Sha and Sky Scorpion were powerful and brutal. They could easily destroy a fleet of space battleships and swallow hundreds of thousands of creatures in a city. Even nuclear weapons and sunflower lotuses couldn't kill them. In the first half of the war, they made the creatures on Earth tremble in fear, deep in their bones. And yet, Zhang Tian had killed them with a flick of his finger after reaching the soul formation level. It could be said that Zhang Tian's battle record in the past hour was far more than what Jeffrey had achieved in a year with the New Myth Alliance. There were also the 4 Divine Lords of the Beihan sect. They were all Hanming Zongzi's right-hand men, guardian elders. They controlled Dharma laws and even the fragments of the Grand Tao. Their Dharma power was extremely powerful and they dominated the world. They showed their divinity in front of people and traveled across the universe. In the eyes of the common people, they were omnipotent gods. The common people no longer worshipped them as idols, but as believers in the face of the gods and deities. They could only bow down and worship them. However, no one had expected that Zhang Tian had actually already killed their elemental masters. Divine Lords. He's a Divine Lord. He's the first soul formation Divine Lord on Earth and he's still the most powerful person on Earth. That's right, a genius is still a genius and your father is still your father. What has he been through in the past few years? How did he become so powerful? Has he conquered the ruins of deity? Everyone exclaimed and looked at Zhang Tian as if they were looking at a demon god. After 5 years of fighting, I didn't disappoint you. The ruins of deity have been conquered and I'm now the lord of the ruins of deity. When asked by the reporters, Zhang Tian said calmly, "That's great. Well done. From now on I'm Kong Teichu's die-hard fan again." After a moment of silence, the world burst into an uproar. This was especially so for Zhang Tian's old friends such as Shen Lu and his wife Iris, Lu Yiting and the others. They were so excited that they jumped up from their chairs, waved their fists and cheered. The world only knows that the recovery of spiritual aura is an everlasting change. Endless blessings are obtained in the ultimate sublimation. But they don't understand that the greatest wealth in the world is the wealth of war. Senior Absolute Beginning swept through the ruins of immortality, so how could his gains be little? Chao Jinjia was enlightened and she sighed. At this time even Zhou Xian, who had fallen asleep, was awakened. After learning about the situation, he immediately burst into tears and said with a trembling voice, "Heaven has not left Earth behind. The Lord of the Earth's mythological alliance is finally back. After years of turmoil and humiliation, we can finally avenge ourselves." Chapter 1737. However, there were others who looked as if they had lost their parents. At the old site of the ancient city in Atlantis, the new king of Atlantis, Geoffrey, immediately surrendered to Han Ming Zongzi after the arrival of the Beidou cultivators. He was now the leader of the Myth Alliance. He even sent the mermen of the Bermuda Delta to attack the Martian base of the monsters. By then, Atlantis was already the dominator of the world's oceans, and Geoffrey even claimed to be the spokesperson of the Beidou cultivators. Geoffrey held the trident in his hand and played with the ancient scepter that was inlaid with precious gems. He walked into the royal palace that was emitting resplendent light and made of precious gems. He was at ease. "You, my king, the 5 nascent soul heavenly lords of Wuxia are here. They'll definitely kill Kong Teichu and avenge you. What Tianqing sect? Just wait to be annihilated." Mu's widow, Geoffrey's mother, wore a queen's crown on her head. Her beautiful face was filled with resentment and hatred as she watched the video of the battle. The 5 nascent soul heavenly lords of Wuxia have all been taught by Han Ming Zongzi. I don't think Kong Teichu will be a match for them. Geoffrey was also full of confidence. He used to be afraid of Jiang Tian, but compared to Han Ming Zongzi and the other entities of the Beidou cultivators, Geoffrey knew that Jiang Tian was nothing. However, the situation took a turn for the worse. When he saw Jiang Tian kill the nascent soul heavenly lords and Hanch divine prince kneel before him, Geoffrey clenched his fists. With a clang, Geoffrey was so shocked that his scepter fell to the ground. His toes were bleeding from the impact, but he didn't notice it at all. Why is Kong Teichu so powerful? In a blink, Geoffrey was struck by lightning. His face turned pale and his body trembled in fear. Oh God! How did that goddamn Jiang Taichu become so powerful? I'm afraid he's at the divine transformation realm, right? How did he do it? Could it be that he can't be killed? Geoffrey's mother panicked and screamed. I wonder if he will still accept me calling him foster father now? Recalling Jiang Tian's terrifying and monstrous methods, Geoffrey was filled with regret at this moment. He was so terrified that his soul almost left his body. On the banks of the Nile River, inside a black pyramid that emitted a gloomy aura of death, fresh blood splattered everywhere and broken bones flew everywhere. Amidst the shrill cries of agony, the pharaoh King Seth opened his bloody mouth and devoured the flesh and blood of a golden core grassland wolf clan member. Comfortable. Seth patted his round belly and roared into the sky. After absorbing the flesh and blood essence, his originally mummified body suddenly swelled up a little, and his body glowed with a faint golden color. Chapter 1738. Jiang Tian returned and gave a warning. This brought an unparalleled impact to the entire Earth. It turned out that the Myth Alliance issued a hunting order for the demon race. Suddenly, no one executed it anymore. The hunting of the demon race stopped abruptly. Humans and demons are not natural enemies. Earth's humans and demons both fight for Earth. They share the same origin, so they should work together to defend against foreign enemies. Leader Tai Chu is wise. Unveil the dark curtain. We need the Big Dipper cultivators to give us an explanation. Why did the demons come to the Earth 3 years ago? Humans and demons shook hands and walked on the streets, performing and parading, boiling like seafood, supporting Jiang Tian. The demons' chaos was just a deliberately planned conspiracy. From the beginning to the end we found the wrong enemy. But without the return of leader Kong Teichu, I think we would have been fooled for 100 years, 1,000 years, or even until our civilization was assimilated and completely disappeared. We would never know the truth. Humans should thank Kong Teichu. Peter Chen, the author of An Overview of Global Cultivation Civilization and a historian of cultivation, said earnestly in an interview with the BBC. Under the leadership of the righteous cultivators led by Kang Taichu, the struggle to crush the anti-earth group of Zhou Xian, Xing Yilong Zhang Huiran Yang Chen, and Qi Jinglei has achieved a great victory. The Gang of Five group led by Zhou Xian has fallen into a vast ocean of angry condemnation from all cultivators, races and classes. A climax of exposing, criticizing and eradicating the Gang of Five's crimes against Earth is vigorously unfolding. Huaxin News commented. The Gang of Five is a group of conspirators and ambitious schemers with capitulationist tendencies, poisoned by the defeatism of their race and civilization, and fantasizing about seizing power. They are the capitulators who refuse to fight and are afraid of sacrifice. They are the ones who proactively kneel down and lick the boots of the surrenders. They are crazy against Kang Taichu, the great guide of the spiritual energy recovery, the founder of the All Ages Taoist Foundation, and the chief helmsman of the Earth battleship who conquered the Sea of Stars. They betrayed the purpose and declaration of the myth alliance that they signed with their own hands. They are the fighters and lackeys of the extraterrestrial cultivators. They are crazy enough to attack Taichu's followers and close comrades, Yi Tianren, Li Wuji and Lotus Buddha, trying to usurp the highest leadership of the myth alliance. Zhou Xian stood out and represented Wuxia's secular world to criticize Zhou Xian and the others. The Gang of Five is the great enemy of the demon clan and the human clan. Can be said that they are the great enemy of all living creatures on Earth. Our war with the Gang of Five is a war between Earth's creatures and extraterrestrial invaders. It is a war between interstellar pacifists and imperialist invaders. It is a life and death war between racial egalitarians and extreme racists. I can't be soft-hearted, I can't take a step back. I have to remember the teachings of the Taichu Alliance Master. Behind us is our home. The Wuxia army had a special live broadcast on the Look at Me platform to answer the netizens' concerns and express their support for Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian had come back with an unstoppable momentum. He had killed the 5 nascent soul heavenly lords of Wuxia with a snap of his fingers, which had already shocked the world. Especially after hearing from Qin Shi Fairy and Han Che Divine Prince. Everyone also knew that Jiang Tian had once killed many soul formation divine lords on Mars, which was even more terrifying. The nascent soul cultivators other than the 5 heavenly lords were trembling in fear and didn't dare to disobey Jiang Tian at all. In a blink, the cultivation world, the senior members of the secular world, the large families and sects of Wuxia immediately announced their support for Jiang Tian. Some even visited the Kunlun building in person to greet him as disciples. That was only the attitude of the government and the senior members. There were also a lot of different voices among the people. In short, they were fans of Ji Mingchuan, Xianxia and Han Che Divine Prince. Those fans were the same as the fans of the popular celebrities in the past. However, they had entered a new era and there were ferocious beasts everywhere. People's lives were in danger and those popular young men were useless, so they had been abandoned a long time ago. Those who replaced them were young cultivators like Ji Mingchuan. They were hardcore fans and idols. No matter what era it was, there was no lack of such irrational and extremely boring fans. And those fans of Ji Mingchuan became the staunch opponents of Jiang Tian. They kept guiding the public opinion on the internet, hoping that Jiang Tian would die quickly. Besides, those fans even had a higher profession and could completely guide the public opinion. Kang Taichu killed the 5 nascent soul heavenly lords in Chuanchuan without any reason as soon as he came back. He's cruel and unscrupulous. He'll die a horrible death. That night, there were discordant voices from the official media account of People's Solar Blast, which was very influential. There was an uproar and many interpretations were made. Some people wondered if the government and the military had changed their opinion and were opposing Jiang Tian. It doesn't represent our attitude. We're still investigating. The leader of the daily press was scared out of his wits. She immediately investigated through the night and found out that the female administrator of the official media account was actually a fan of Ji Mingchuan. Chapter 1739. You don't have to thank me. We're comrades in arms. Jiang Tian stretched out his hands to support Li Wuji. His smile was warm and he did not put on any airs at all. The more powerful Jiang Tian was, the the more he felt that it wasn't easy for people to struggle, and the more approachable he became. His arrogance and disregard of human life was only for his enemies. He never put on airs towards his old friends. Alas. You asked me to take care of the daily affairs of the Myth Alliance. In the end, the Myth Alliance fell apart and suffered heavy losses. I've failed my mission and I'm too ashamed to see you. Li Wuji's hair was gray and he looked old. His power had dropped and he looked like a disabled person. When he faced Jiang Tian, he was full of shame and dejection. It's not easy to survive to this extent. Jiang Tian smiled and said. It wasn't just to comfort him, it was also the truth. The civilizations that could stand in the universe had gone through cruel baptisms. Natural disasters and man-made disasters were more than 100 times more dangerous than the recovery of spirit chi and the invasion of the North Star Beidou. Because they had gone through a lot of hardships and walked on the edge of life and death again and again, those civilizations had become vigilant and had strong adaptability, resistance and fighting abilities. The cultivation world on Earth at the moment was like a young man who had just learned a few moves and hadn't carried a sword yet. He didn't have any experience at all. So, it was already good enough that the cultivation world on Earth could survive to this extent. But Zhou Xian and the other 5 are only a small problem. Even Jeffrey and the New Myth Alliance are nothing to worry about. The real problem is the cultivators from other planets like the Beihan sect. Li Wuji suddenly heaved a sigh and looked worried. Don't worry. I've given them an ultimatum. If they dare to stay for a long time, I'll kill them with my sword. Jiang Tian chuckled, looking calm and composed. Leader of the Taichu Alliance, I heard that Han Ming Zongzi is a sacred grade soul formation cultivator. Li Wuji was worried. I heard that ordinary peak stage soul formation cultivators might not be able to defeat him. It's fine. Jiang Tian appeared to be extremely confident. He smiled leisurely and said, however, before killing them, I want to go back to Sidonia and take a look. This is how it should be. Grand Beginning Divine Lord, go back. You're working too hard. Everyone was filled with admiration. Since Jiang Tian's return, first he killed 6 divine lords of the divine transformation realm on Mars and obtained clues about the imprint Dharma artifact. In this battle alone, the number of divine lords that Jiang Tian had killed surpassed the total number of divine lords that the cultivators of Earth and Big Dipper had killed in the past 2 years. Lu Shang immediately shrank his head and said in fear. Brother Zhantian's divine soul was immediately shattered and completely dissipated. And Senior Yi Tianren is only left with a wisp of his divine soul. In the chaos of the earth, tens of thousands of human cultivators died and were injured. We only saved 500 divine souls. Speaking of this, he couldn't hold on any longer. He knelt on the ground and said in a trembling voice, I didn't do a good job. Please punish me. Plus, I know. You've done your best. Jiang Tian sighed and didn't blame him too much. He stood up and said lightly, Karen, I'll take you to the ghost realm of Mount Mang and see if your grandfather's divine soul has a chance to be reincarnated. Just as everyone was sending off Jiang Tian Yi Karen, and the big black dog respectfully, they were about to leave. The acting leader of the Myth Alliance, Jeffrey, the pharaoh of the Black Pyramid, Sudi, the Assyrian king of the Tower of Babel, request to see the leader of the Taichu Alliance. All of a sudden, a voice was heard announcing something. Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold. He sat down again and said with a mocking smile, I was just about to look for them. I didn't expect them to come here themselves. They are tired of living and took the initiative to come to me for me to kill? Chapter 1740. Let them in. Jiang Tian was surprised by the arrival of these people. Because everyone knew each other very well, Jeffrey and the other's strength was about the same as Zhou Xian's. They were definitely not Jiang Tian's match. Moreover, they ought to know that with Jiang Tian's decisive and vengeful nature, he would probably absolutely not let Jeffrey and the others off. If they came here, they would be sending themselves to their deaths. A moment later, Jeffrey, the king of Assyria, Sudi, and the elephant king of India walked in together. Sizzle. Li Wuji, Yi Karen, and the other supporters of Jiang Tian turned around and looked at the visitors. Suddenly, invisible sparks appeared in the air and the atmosphere was tense. It was as if the barrel of gunpowder was about to explode. The two sides had fought many times in the fight for control of the Myth Alliance. Li Wuji's Dantian was severely damaged and his power was destroyed. He was the laughingstock of the world. Yi Karen's grandfather and father were killed and his family was destroyed. How could he not take revenge for this blood feud? Haha, interesting. Even at such a time, you are still able to display killing intent and hostility without the slightest bit of remorse. Jiang Tian sat on the leather sofa and sipped the tea that Qing Lulu handed to him. He looked at Jeffrey and the others with interest and realized something. They were all peak-stage nascent soul cultivators or even higher, but they were still a distance away from the soul formation level. However, their grades were not bad. They were all forcefully piled up with priceless tiger wolf elixirs. It seemed that the Northern Frost sect and the Northern Dipper sect had spent a lot of effort to show their goodwill and show their superiority in the cultivation arts they had passed down. They had spent a lot of cultivation resources and heavenly materials. Of course, even if they were so powerful, Jiang Tian could kill them with a snap of his fingers. Their power was only comparable to an early-stage soul formation cultivator, and they were only at the first level. They were at the same level as Zhou Xian. It could be said that Jiang Tian had killed countless such existences. Jeffrey and the others naturally knew that Jiang Tian's strength was enough to kill them. The reason why they were so aggressive was simple. First, they thought that Jiang Tian would not dare to offend the Beihan sect. Second, they were carrying some secret treasures that were passed down by the Beihan sect. Greetings, Mr. Kong Teichu, the former leader of the Myth Alliance. Retracting their gazes, Jeffrey and the others bowed slightly toward Jiang Tian. It was so small that it was almost invisible. There was no respect in their attitude. With a mocking look in his eyes, Jiang Tian stared at Jeffrey and the others and said with a smile, "You are all giants on earth in the new era of the recovery of spirit qi. You are in high positions. Why would you condescend to meet me, Jiang Taichu, today? Haha, Taichu, my friend, you used to be the leader of the spirit qi recovery era. You have made great contributions to the cultivation world. Now that you have returned, of course we are concerned about you." The Assyrian king's face was thin and haggard, but his hair was as white as silver. His eyes were deep, filled with vicissitudes and wisdom. He was wearing a white robe and his temperament was otherworldly and ethereal. He bowed slightly and said with a smile, "Ah, thank you." Jiang Tian said with a half-smile, "What do you want to say?" "This time I am here on behalf of Han Ming, the sect leader of the Beihan sect." Jeffrey was wearing a luxurious long robe that was embroidered with patterns of sea beasts and sea gods. He was holding a trident that represented the hegemony of the bottom of the sea and a scepter that was inlaid with gems and crystals. His eyes were arrogant. He said with a proud look, "I want to talk to you about the division of power in the solar system." "Please tell me more." Jiang Tian's tone was calm, neither anxious nor impatient as he spoke with interest. "Earth should open its door and welcome the arrival of the Beidu sect," Jeffrey said matter-of-factly. "I'm sure that with the great talent and vision of Grand Primordium, you should have realized that a civilization that is isolated and stagnant will not achieve great development. Only by being tolerant and open will the civilization on Earth continue to grow. One day, it will be able to stand among the many civilizations in the Milky Way." Jiang Tian chuckled with disdain in his eyes. But there were some things that he didn't want to say. Of course, interstellar civilizations also had to be open and share resources and civilization. But there was a prerequisite, which was that the two sides had to be on a relatively equal and balanced basis. A lion could be brothers with a tiger and do business with it. But a rabbit couldn't be naive enough to think that it had the same rights as a lion. If it walked in front of a tiger without any precautions, it would only become its food. Jeffrey and the others didn't understand such a simple principle. They just pretended to be confused and took the moral high ground to force Jiang Tian to hand over the control of the solar system so that the Beihan sect could arrive openly. They even pretended to be the savior of the world. Therefore, Jiang Tian didn't bother to give any reason. He smiled and said directly, "Jeffrey, I think it's a bit unnecessary for you to talk to me on behalf of Han Ming Zongzi." His eyes were calm without a trace of emotion. "I'll say the same thing. Since I made the oath a few days ago, there has been no change. Any cultivator of the Big Dipper sect who occupies the solar system without my permission will be killed without mercy." Jiang Tian's tone was casual, but as soon as he finished speaking, a majestic pressure came crashing down. Jeffrey and the others suddenly felt as if a mountain was crazily pressing down on them. Their bones cracked as if they were about to be shattered and annihilated in the next moment. The divine elephant king of India who had the weakest cultivation, took a few steps back and almost fell out of the door. He couldn't help but feel ashamed and shocked. He's so powerful. He's too powerful. Everyone couldn't help but feel terrified and uneasy. They had all seen Zhang Tian's battle scenes in the video and knew that Zhang Tian's strength was terrifying. However, knowing couldn't be compared to the intuitive feeling of actually facing it. The latter was 10 times or 100 times more shocking. They felt as if a few ants were facing a god who could destroy the world. They didn't have the slightest strength to resist. If you're just a messenger on behalf of divine Sun Han Ming. Zhang Tian put away his unparalleled ferocity and said calmly, "My answer is already very clear. You can leave now. I'm already being merciful by not killing you." Zhang Tian directly ordered them to leave. At this time, Zhang Tian's strength also made Li Wuji and the others feel a sense of inferiority and fear. If they were in his shoes, they would never dare to resist Han Ming Zongzi in the slightest. Only Kong Teichu dared to be so domineering and resolute, as if all the gods and Buddhas in the sky couldn't stop him from moving forward, as if all the worlds in the universe couldn't bury his ambition. Anyone who stood in front of him, even if they were gods or Buddhas, could be cut down with one sword strike. "What? You don't want to talk anymore?" Jeffrey's aura was instantly suppressed by Zhang Tian. He was like a little white rabbit that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, held down by a primordial monster that could devour the world. Not to mention his strength, battle record and achievements, he was inferior to Zhang Tian in all aspects. The key was his mentality. He looked only in his 20s because he had already built his foundation at that age. From then on it was guaranteed that he wouldn't age. In fact, his real lifespan was already more than 100 years old. This age was already considered old among ordinary people. However, compared to Zhang Tian's 10,000 years of lifespan, he paled in comparison. He was an out-and-out brat. Zhang Tian had lived 2 lives and had experienced too many battles and killings. He had seen too many big scenes and cultivated a calm and magnificent temperament. That kind of huge aura that was like the sky, overlooking the earth and overlooking all living things, was not something that Jeffrey could compare to. Chapter 1741. Jeffrey was taken aback. His face flushed red and he was dumbfounded. He had a feeling of being put on the spot. Zhang Tian's reaction caught him off guard and he didn't know what to say. "Senior Tai Chu, please reconsider." The Assyrian king, who had white hair and a white beard, was more experienced. He immediately said with a face full of joy, "The Beta civilization has its advantages and advantages. If we merge with the cultivation civilization on Earth, we will be able to create a new era of cultivation and give birth to soul formation divine lords and void return mighty saints." The others also nodded. "I know that. But I have made up my mind." "Stop talking nonsense." Zhang Tian was unmoved. "Senior Tai Chu, do you know that Ji Mingchuan and the others are inner sect disciples of the Beihan sect just like me?" Jeffrey was infuriated by Zhang Tian's stubbornness. He stepped forward and scolded. "You killed Ji Mingchuan and the others, which means you are an enemy of the Beihan sect. If it weren't for Han Ming Zongzi's magnanimity, you would have been dead by now. Kong Teichu, as long as Han Ming Zongzi gets the right to live on Earth, he can even return the position of the leader of the Myth Alliance. Shouldn't you be grateful for his kindness? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that?" Zhang Tian raised his eyebrows and suddenly smiled, but a trace of coldness flashed through his deep eyes. "Isn't it enough that I am the acting leader of the Myth Alliance?" Jeffrey tilted his head and said arrogantly. As soon as he said that, the king of Assyria and the others panicked. Jeffrey was too naive after all. He didn't know how terrifying Kong Teichu was. "We betrayed him and took control of the Myth Alliance, which made Kong Teichu unhappy. He didn't mention it, but you brought it up. Aren't you adding fuel to the fire?" "Haha, acting leader of the Myth Alliance. I remember that position belongs to Li Wuji. How did it fall into your hands? Did you ask for my permission?" Zhang Tian suddenly felt a little annoyed and chuckled. Suddenly he raised his right hand and slapped out. That's right. Zhang Tian didn't want to take his life. Instead he wanted to slap him. But this was worse than killing him. This was the ultimate humiliation. "How dare you slap me?" Jeffrey roared angrily and his body retreated rapidly. His nascent soul roared and his spirit embryo trembled. The 5 to 6 types of protective magical artifacts that he carried with him gave off resplendent rays of light. All kinds of laws of the sea surged around his body in an attempt to protect or interfere with Zhou Xian. It was all for the sake of not being slapped in the face by Zhou Xian. Because this time, the meeting between the two sides was also witnessed by various media and was directly broadcasted to billions of people around the world. If this image were to be spread, it could be said that his dignity would be ruined and he would not be able to establish his authority on earth. Even if Jeffrey used thousands of methods and divine powers, it was still useless in the end. This slap was still solid and landed on his face without any suspense. Jeffrey's entire body flew out horizontally. When he stood up again, there were a few clear fingerprints on his face. For a moment he was shocked and angry. "Kong Teichu, how dare you hit me?" "Dino." Jeffrey roared loudly and was driven mad with hatred. "You're Han Ming Zongzi's disciple. Oh no, a lackey, right? Not to mention a lackey like you. Even if Han Ming Zongzi was here in person, I would still slap him." Zhang Tian raised his hand. In Jeffrey's scream, he directly caught him in his hand. Like an eagle catching a chick, he held him in his hand lightly and laughed disdainfully. "You people really disappoint me. You don't have any ability at all and can only be the dogs of the extraterrestrial cultivators, threatening others with their power. Let go of me." Jeffrey only roared crazily, but he couldn't move at all. His entire body was frozen by Zhang Tian's terrifying sea-calming ice god law. Even a soul formation cultivator would find it difficult to break free, let alone Jeffrey, who was only at the nascent soul stage. Kong Teichu is too strong. Compared to him, Jeffrey is like trash. It's like a baby in swaddling clothes facing the boxing champion Tyson. Tyson can kill him with one finger. Ridiculous. How dare he challenge the leader of the Taichu Alliance with this? For a moment, more than 1 billion viewers in the live broadcast room watched this scene in shock and crazily flooded the screen. Kong Teichu is still an invincible existence on this planet. Jeffrey is not effective at all. I thought he was a bit stronger than Zhou Xian. Getting the inheritance of the Big Dipper is just SOSO. It turns out that a lot of people preach that the Big Dipper art is supreme and invincible. Especially Zhang Shisan, Chao Jinjia, Lu Yiting, Shen Lu and his wife and other hardcore fans of Zhang Tian. Their palms almost turned red from clapping. "Kong Teichu, let go of him. Look how brutal. Even our Joffrey's snow-white and slender neck has turned red. Kong Teichu, you are ruthless and unscrupulous. One day you will be punished by the heavens and struck by lightning." Jeffrey's female fans were all cursing Zhang Tian. They were so distressed that tears fell from their eyes. They were almost the same group as Ji Mingchuan's fans. Because Jeffrey and Ji Mingchuan belonged to the same type. They were good-looking and liked to interact with their fans. It was just that their styles were different. Ji Mingchuan was gentle and approachable. Jeffrey, on the other hand, had always been a domineering Xiu. He ignored his fans, but his fans loved him even more. Maybe he was a little masochistic. In short, he was very cheap. Just because I killed a few of Han Ming's lackeys, Han Ming is going to punish me? Zhang Tian finally looked at Jeffrey for the first time. He smiled, revealing 8 white teeth. His smile was as bright as the boy next door. However, in the eyes of everyone, it was like a prehistoric mythical beast opening its bloody mouth. It was extremely frightening. That's because he attracted the Big Dipper demon clan. The demons created chaos on Earth. There are so many orphans and widows. Who should they ask for their father and lover? There are so many parents who have lost their children. Who should they ask for their children? Who should be punished for the thousands of casualties of the human and demon clans on Earth? Zhang Tian's words were powerful and sonorous, like the sound of a sword. This. Jeffrey was dumbfounded and speechless. Han Ming is guilty. At this moment, in front of the screen, countless audience roared. Some had tears in their eyes, some were inexplicably sad and indignant, some clenched their fists and some were in high fighting spirit. Han Ming is guilty. At this moment, the voices of countless people gathered on both sides of the Qinhuai River in Jin City, in the entire Wuxia, and even on the vast earth. "My friend, there's nothing we can do about it." In the end, the Assyrian king, who was old and experienced, stepped forward and said with a brazen face, "Let's go." He stepped forward and said, "Han Ming knows that Earth has never seen an extraterrestrial civilization. It has been in an era of Dharma decline and desolation for a long time. Cultivation is not popular and people are conservative and conservative. The arrival of the Beihan sect will definitely attract the opposition of the human race on Earth. In order not to start a war between the human race on Earth and the Big Dipper Demon Clan, Han Ming had no choice but to lead the Big Dipper Demon Clan to Earth and then appear as the savior. However, this is not for the benefit of the Beihan sect, but for the prosperity of the civilization on Earth. He has really put in a lot of effort. You must understand more. Chapter 1742. Damn it. Han Ming Zongzi admitted it. He admitted that he was the one who manipulated the war that caused so many casualties, and he even pretended that he was doing it for your own good. The king of Assyria and Han Ming Zongzi have reached a new level of shamelessness. Indeed, I have never seen such a shameless person. In an instant, the billions of viewers in front of the screen, except for Han Ming Zongzi's die-hard fans, were enraged. Their lungs nearly exploded with anger. Everyone was spitting out curses as they went berserk. Because the king of Assyria, or Han Ming Zongzi, was too shameless. He had taken advantage of the situation, but he still pretended to be innocent. He was the ugliest kind of human nature. If I rape your mother, I will say that I love your mother very much and that I did it to make your mother feel better. Can you understand me? Normally Jiang Tian would never swear. But this time, the shameless faces of the Assyrian king and the others angered him to the extreme, and he retorted. Damn it. Awesome. I didn't expect that the sage like Kong Techu would be so awesome when he says something nice. I admit defeat. Come on everyone, let's say, I raped the king of Assyria and Han Ming Zongzi's mother to make them feel better. Can you understand me? The livestream room was in an uproar. Countless people slapped their legs and laughed crazily. They all felt that Jiang Tian's cursing was too satisfying, hitting the nail on the head. In fact, Jiang Tian had indeed found the core of the problem. No one could prove their motive and no one could say for sure. Let's wait and see. What was the result of the Big Dipper? Monsters wreaked havoc on the earth, causing countless deaths and injuries. At least half of the cultivators on Earth were killed. A large number of heavenly treasures, spirit veins and cave abodes on Earth were taken over by the Beihan clan. The lifeline of the cultivation civilization in the future was controlled by the Beihan clan. The Myth Alliance also existed in name only. They had become Han Ming Zongzi's puppets and mouthpieces. Kong Teju, the Assyrian king, flew into a rage. You are too presumptuous and vulgar. How dare you speak to this old man in such a tone? Old man? You have the nerve to call yourself an old man? You're just an old man. You don't like the way I talk? You don't feel comfortable standing up, do you? Jiang Tian's face was cold. He didn't move at all and only shouted in a low voice. Kneel. A divine-grade nascent soul stage cultivator was like the child of a deity. His words were like the heavenly law and his words were the law. The words were spoken. Endless laws were activated, and an incomparably terrifying pressure came crashing down. The Assyrian king was shocked and unleashed the power of a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator. Many kinds of laws rushed to the sky trying to resist Jiang Tian, but found that it was not enough. Plop. The Assyrian king couldn't bear it at all. His knees bent and he knelt heavily on the ground. His knees smashed two deep pits in the ground densely covered with array glyphs. Kong Techu, how dare you? The Assyrian king was furious. He was the descendant of the ancient king of Babylon and the master of the Tower of Babel, but now he was forced to kneel and submit in front of billions of people. It was a great humiliation. But Jiang Tian didn't care. He pressed down again with an unstoppable force as if there was no end to it. The Assyrian king struggled crazily and used all kinds of secret arts, but he couldn't break free. In the end he fell to the ground like a toad. You had the chance to stand and talk, but you want to kneel, so I have to fulfill your wish. Jiang Tian flicked his fingers and said with a cold smile, Isn't it good to be a human? Why do you have to be the dog of the Big Dipper cultivators? Senior Taichu, you can't. Li Wuji and the others changed their expressions and came to persuade Jiang Tian. As Jiang Tian's supporters and followers, they naturally hated Jeffrey and his group to the bone. They wished they could eat their flesh and sleep on their skin. However, this was not the time to be happy. Even if they were detained as hostages, they would have more bargaining chips to negotiate with Han Ming Zongzi. Even if a war broke out, the Beihan sect would be afraid of the consequences. Ignoring the persuasion of the crowd, Zhang Tian looked down at the Assyrian king condescendingly and said with a look of disdain, "Who do you think you are? You are just a nascent soul cultivator. Without my spirit qi, you are just a half-step golden core perfected cultivator. Since you have received benefits from me, you should be obedient and be Kong Teichu's dog. I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. You barked at your master when you saw a few new bones. You are a mad dog." Zhang Tian got up slowly and stepped on the Assyrian king's face. However, as an old dog that was supposed to be obedient, since it went crazy and barked at its old master, it should have been prepared to be killed. The Assyrian king was humiliated, but at the same time he was terrified, because he found that Zhang Tian was too powerful. He had just activated the laws that Han Ming Zongzi had taught him. Those laws were considered top-secret arts in the Beihan sect, but they still couldn't hurt Zhang Tian at all. They disappeared in a blink of an eye and didn't cause a single ripple. Sensing that Zhang Tian's murderous intent was getting stronger, Li Wuji was startled. He quickly went forward and said, "Taichu sect master, I know what you mean. But do you really think Han Ming Zongzi cares about the lives of these dogs? Not to mention that they are the kind of dogs that are loyal to their masters as long as there are bones to eat." Li Wuji was speechless after hearing Zhang Tian's words. Bang! Zhang Tian stomped the king of Assyria into the ground, turning him into a pile of blood, flesh and broken bones. Even his nascent soul was absorbed by Zhang Tian with the divine law of Tao Tai and killed on the spot. What's the point of keeping such a stupid and bad piece of trash? To pollute the environment? What? Envoys are not killed when two countries are at war. We are the envoys of Han Ming Zongzi. How can you kill us? The king of the Black Pyramid, Sati, and the king of divine elephants of India were scared out of their wits. Their legs trembled and they yelled as they backed away. They had never thought that Zhang Tian would be so domineering. He didn't care about anything else and killed them right away. If you are the envoys of the cultivators from other planets, why do you hold important positions in the mythological alliance and do whatever you want on Earth? As Zhang Tian approached, he sneered and mocked. You are like bats. You say you have fur when you see animals, but you say you have wings when you see birds. You have taken advantage of both sides. How can there be such a good thing? Summon Han Ming Zongzi. The king of divine elephants and Sati yelled with pale faces. Han Ming Zongzi, please come. I am in danger. Suddenly, a look of determination flashed in Jeffrey's eyes as he yelled. At the same time, a stream of crimson energy was injected into a jade tablet in front of his chest. It was engraved with complicated and mysterious runes. The jade tablet flickered and its light became brighter and brighter. In the end, it suddenly exploded and turned into a beam of light that shot into the sky. At this moment, everyone was stunned. They were puzzled and unable to make up their minds. He used a secret treasure to summon Han Ming Zongzi? Would he come? Chapter 1743. Boom. At this moment, the great Tao between heaven and earth rumbled and trembled. Spiritual chi tides that were tens of thousands of feet long surged in the void. On the ground, all kinds of plants grew crazily, twisting like demons and demons. It was as if these two words were enough to turn them into monsters. There were also countless Oris core stage and building foundation stage demonic beasts that felt an irresistible pressure. They prostrated themselves on the ground and buried their heads into the ground, trembling, as if they were being suppressed by the power of heaven and earth. The laws of the world are shaking and the essence chi is surging. Is the clone of divine Prince Han Ming coming? Where's Zongzi Han Ming? He should be in the space city millions of kilometers away. How can he come here so quickly? What's the point of Jeffrey shouting like that? Li Wuji, Yi Karen, Dugu Shao, and the others looked at each other with fear and confusion. Have you heard of the old saying, God is watching you from 3 feet above your head? It took Jeffrey a lot of effort to summon Han Ming Zongzi. For a moment, his face was as pale as paper and he was barely breathing, but his eyes were burning with the flames of madness and resentment. His hair was disheveled and he shouted crazily. His hair was messy and he shouted, the real soul formation cultivators, especially the powerful sacred grade ones, have their primordial spirits in the air and are connected with the laws of the Grand Tao. The world is me and I am the world. Even if you don't call out their names, They can sense you when you think about them billions of miles away. Whoever dares to say anything bad about them will be punished immediately. I'm summoning Zhongzi Hanming right now. He'll be here soon. Aren't you afraid? Kang Teichu, you'd better let me go. He's millions of miles away and he's here in a second. How is that possible? Everyone was still in disbelief. All of a sudden they saw something shocking. Who dares to hurt my disciple and believer? After a shout, a person broke through the gate of time and space and appeared in front of everyone. The man's figure was no different from an ordinary person's. He was wearing the standard robe of the Beihan sect. His face was delicate and handsome and his eyes were as clear as water. His soft hair danced in the wind, and his temperament was like that of an immortal. Zhongzi Hanming. For a moment, everyone exclaimed in disbelief. Who would have thought that he would be able to travel millions of miles at such a terrifying speed from the outer space city to here? Disregarding everything else, Jiang Tian seemed to be slightly inferior in terms of speed. This is Hanming Zhongzi. In front of the screen, many people who saw Hanming Zhongzi for the first time were surprised. Such an unparalleled hero who had bathed the sea of stars in blood and slaughtered a life planet easily must be magnificent and intimidating. But Hanming Zhongzi was so delicate and beautiful, like an orchid in an empty valley with a drizzle, like a clear spring flowing over a clean stone in a pine forest under the bright moon, like a snow lotus that was far away from the mortal world. Is the conspiracy announced by Kang Teichu true? Is this Hanming Zhongzi really the mastermind behind the chaos caused by the demons? Is he a terrifying existence who sees life as nothing and slaughters the endless starry sky? For a time such thoughts involuntarily appeared in the minds of many people. The anger and hatred that had accumulated in their chests were gradually dissipating. Hanming Zhongzi's charm was simply terrifying. So terrifying. Be careful, leader of the Taichu Alliance. His speed is too terrifying. Has he mastered the space technique? Li Wuji, Yi Karen and the others reminded him softly with fear in their hearts, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. The people at the scene felt different from the audience in the livestream room. In the eyes of Li Wuji and the others, Hanming Zhongzi in front of them was emitting a faint glow. His every move was natural and harmonious, as if he had merged with the great path of the world. He was like the dominating god of this world. Everything in the world and the great paths were under his control. He was omniscient, omnipotent and meticulous. Compared to Hanming and Zhongzi, it was the difference between a mortal and an immortal, a human and a god. They felt that they were incomparably small and humble from the bottom of their hearts. They couldn't help but have the urge to kneel and submit to him. Hanming Zhongzi is here. Kang Teichu, what are you waiting for? The king of divine elephants was rejuvenated as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He stood up and shook his fat head and big ears, exclaiming in delight and complacency. Unworthy disciple Sai Ti greets Lord Zhongzi. Sai Ti hurriedly knelt on the ground. His pale golden face was filled with ecstasy, and his scarlet eyes were filled with madness, greed and bloodlust. The enemy is stubborn and won't listen to our kind words. However, he is powerful and his strength is terrifying. The four of us are no match for him. We have brought shame to the name of the Beihan clan and our master. Zhongzi, please kill him and wash away the shame with his blood. If Kang Teichu is killed, his flesh and blood will be a great supplement. He must have absorbed too much heaven and earth spiritual qi, immortal materials, and divine materials to form his body. Thinking of this, he was drooling. It was no exaggeration to say that he was drooling. Kang Teichu can cross 1,000,000 miles in one step and arrive in a flash. This is the power of a divine transformation realm cultivator. A wise man submits to circumstances. Let me go and surrender to Hanming Zhongzi. Maybe he will show mercy and spare your life. Jeffrey shouted crazily as if he had found a powerful backer. He didn't take Jiang Tian seriously at all. At this time, when they sensed Hanming Zhongzi's arrival, many cultivators felt their legs go weak and their hearts skip a beat. Tap tap tap. I can't believe he's here so soon. Qin Shi Fairy, Elder Pan Xing, Yuan Jiankong and the others who had just betrayed him were so scared that their teeth chattered and they almost ran away. They were not the sect masters of their respective sects, but the middle management. And their sect masters had to kowtow to Hanming Zhongzi 3 times and 9 times. They were too far away from Hanming Zhongzi, and their strength was far inferior. It was like a little rabbit meeting a prehistoric beast. They weren't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Xianxia's face was also solemn, as if he was facing a great enemy. His spirit embryo trembled and his nascent soul suddenly opened its eyes. The laws of all kinds of ice essence and snow souls trembled slightly as they wanted to attack Han Mingzongzi with all their might. Give it a try? Jiang Tian knew Han Che was no match for him, but he didn't stop him. Because he would only be truly assured if Han Che attacked once. Yes, master. Han Xianxi's face turned serious. He stepped forward without saying anything and attacked decisively. He had lived a long life and had rich experience. He had experienced extreme cruelty and internal strife in his family. He had also fought for power in the Beihan sect and followed Han Mingzongzi to conquer the Star Ocean and many planets. In the end, he understood a principle. Unless it was the kind of genius who was qualified to be called a Dao ancestor, most cultivators lived in the cracks and didn't have much independence. They relied on others or organizations. If you followed someone, you had to follow them to the end. You had to be loyal and carry out orders without hesitation. You either die or ascend to the sky. Or. Han Xianxia was majestic and his aura was unparalleled. His waterfall-like long hair moved without wind. His nascent soul roared to the sky and all kinds of Dharma and Tao fragments boiled and burned in his spirit embryo. He attacked with all his strength. He didn't hesitate to burn his nascent soul, consume his origin and reduce 10% of his Dharma power, divine powers and lifespan for this attack. At least he could survive in front of Han Mingzongzi. Chapter 1744. Plang. The cold laws of all kinds of ice and snow essence condensed in the air, forming the shape of chains. They seemed to be made of ice and snow, carved out of white jade, exuding a terrifying cold air. They froze the space and imprisoned everything. Each of them was like a dragon with Han Che as the center, penetrating in all directions. These divine chains formed by the laws were extremely fast. They were like giant pythons coiling around a body, crisscrossing and instantly binding Han Ming, constantly tightening. Some divine chains drilled into Han Ming's body like poisonous snakes. They were formed by endless tiny law runes rippling and flowing endlessly. From the beginning to the end, Han Mingzongzi did not move at all. There was not even a trace of emotion on his face. He just let Han Che do whatever he wanted. Han Ming's appearance was too handsome, giving people a childish, flawless and weak feeling. He was like a cute little brother next door, making many female fans feel like holding him in their arms and doting on him. It felt as if Han Che was bullying Han Ming. Even if in fact Han Che could not do anything to Han Ming at all. Han Che, you're the mad dog biting your own master. You're too ruthless. Han Che, go to hell. Kong Teichu, you deserve to die too. Kong Teichu, aren't you going to kneel down and beg for mercy? Han Mingzongzi is here in person. Many of Han Mingzongzi's fans screamed crazily, loudly condemning and humiliating Jiang Tian and Han Che, crying out for Han Ming. Han Che, you didn't control 30% of the skills I taught you back then. Suddenly Han Ming spoke. The corners of his mouth curled up with a faint smile, looking calm and relaxed. He seemed to sigh helplessly. I'm very disappointed in you. But since you've already pledged allegiance to Kong Teichu, I won't say anything more. These few words were said calmly and indifferently as if they were just chatting. There was no momentum to speak of. However, it brought about an extremely terrifying psychological pressure. Han Che has already burned his nascent soul and lost his cultivation. But, because at this time, everyone could feel that Han Che's aura was rapidly falling. From the peak of the nascent soul stage it fell to the 9th level, then the 8th level, and it seemed as if it would fall even lower. Han Mingzongzi, on the other hand, was still completely unharmed. It was as if when two people were fighting, one person would stand there and allow the other person to punch and kick him. Even if the other person used a saber to hack at him, the other person would not be injured at all. On the other hand, the person who attacked was so tired that he vomited blood and was heavily injured. It was obvious how terrifying the gap between the two of them was. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. Even though Han Che's cultivation could recover quickly, it was still terrifying. As his body struggled slightly, bang, 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 many of Han Che's law divine chains were shattered. Pooh! Han Che spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered backwards. His face was as pale as paper and his aura fluctuated between high and low. Laws flickered in and out of existence. This was a sign that his mind, nascent soul and body had all been severely wounded. Han Che, you may leave. Then Zhang Tian waved his sleeves. With Han Che's ice and snow essence laws, he could completely sweep across Earth and be almost invincible, but he was still lacking when it came to severely injuring Han Ming's avatar. Yes. Han Che heaved a sigh of relief and retreated behind Zhang Tian. Han Ming Zhongzi is indeed a sacred soul formation cultivator. His primordial spirit has merged with the laws of heaven and earth and he can form an essence chi avatar anytime, anywhere on this land. Zhang Tian paced slowly and said leisurely, "What? That's Han Ming's avatar?" Everyone was shocked and their faces changed drastically. At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with fear. A doppelganger formed from laws and Yuan Qi was actually so solid and lifelike. Could be seen down to the smallest detail. If Zhang Tian hadn't pointed it out, everyone would have thought that it was Han Ming's true self. Even a mere avatar was so powerful that it forced Han Che's cultivation level to drop. How terrifying would it be if Han Ming's true self was there? Indeed. This is only one of his avatars. Han Che glanced at everyone with a serious face and said, "Soul formation grand cultivators have thousands of primordial spirits and are known to be indestructible. Normally, when a soul formation cultivator reaches the peak and his level increases, he will be reborn from a drop of blood. He can use the essence chi in the world to create a clone. He can also rebirth his divine soul by living in a statue, gathering incense and the power of will to form a clone. And sacred soul formation cultivators are much more powerful than normal soul formation cultivators in terms of avatars. Their divine souls are placed in the void and merged with the laws of heaven and earth. They are supported by the status of the world and can completely control the world as if they are the masters of the world or the gods nurtured by nature. Their divine souls are omniscient and omnipotent. They can directly use the energy of the world to form an avatar. They are omnipotent and meticulous. This is a real god. Who would be able to kill such a heaven-defying divine ability?" Everyone was extremely shocked when they heard this. They were terrified and their faces were as pale as paper. Because Divine Prince Han Ming has been alone in the Space City for the past 2 years and rarely fights. Hanch Divine Prince sneered and said, "The cultivators on Earth, except for the Taichu Alliance Master, are too short-sighted after all. They think that Han Ming has never touched Earth even though he is high in the sky." He looked a bit serious and said, "But in fact he has been refining the god in his body every day and connecting it with Earth after the spirit chi recovery. He has been supported by the status of the world and has become the real master of the world. Subduing the enemy without fighting and controlling the world without moving a single soldier. This is the invasion of a sacred soul formation cultivator. This world has become his home ground." In the end, Han Che made the final decision and made the most terrifying note. "What? Doesn't that mean Han Ming has a great advantage? Senior Taichu, a powerful enemy is here. Be careful." Hearing those words, the expressions of Li Wuji, Yi Karen and the others all changed enormously. They started to worry for Zhang Tian. "You're just a sacred soul formation cultivator. I can kill you with one slash even if you're here, let alone a clone." Zhang Tian grunted and grabbed in the air. Countless purple thunderbolts were shot out of Zhang Tian's purple lightning eyes and turned into a 1-meter-long purple lightning blade in the air. As soon as the blade appeared, the great Tao in the sky and on the ground trembled, as if it were very uneasy and trembling. Everyone also felt that their divine souls were about to be destroyed in the next moment and their bodies were about to be smashed into pieces by the purple lightning blade. Once the blade was out, it could destroy the Dharma laws and the great Tao. Could kill the demons of Juyo and the true gods. One slash could see through all laws. Whether it was the spirit, blood chi, essence chi, Dharma laws or even the great Tao, there was nothing it couldn't destroy. "My friend, please listen to me." Han Ming's clone raised his hand to stop the terrifying thunder blade and exclaimed, as if he wanted to say something. "Once this blade is out, it will be stained with blood. Kill, then return to the scabbard." But Zhang Tian wouldn't listen to his nonsense and simply slashed out. Wherever the purple lightning blade passed, the divine Dharma laws roared. The void was annihilated and collapsed, forming a chaotic vacuum. It instantly slashed at Han Ming's clone. Han Ming's clone only had time to make a mysterious finger gesture, trying to activate the Dharma laws and the Great Tao to resist, but before he succeeded he was split in half by the purple lightning blade. Lightning flashed and the deep black hole formed a terrifying suction force. With the space black hole as the center, all sorts of laws collapsed and collapsed. The unparalleled suction force pulled the two bodies of laws apart, causing them to collapse and become chaotic. In the end they were completely swallowed and dissipated into nothingness. Seeing this, everyone was dumbfounded for a moment. There was a dead silence. Absolute silence. Chapter 1745. At this moment Ji Mingchuan, Jeffrey, Han Ming Zongzi and the other diehard fans who had been clamoring for Jiang Tian to lose and begging for Jiang Tian to kneel and beg for mercy were all speechless. She was both shocked and embarrassed. They had never thought that even the clone of Han Ming Zongzi, who was as sacred as a Buddha, couldn't withstand the power of Jiang Tian's saber. They felt like their faces had been slapped and they were too embarrassed to talk back. Even the farts of the cultivators from other planets are fragrant. Even the dogs they raise are worthy of you kneeling and licking? Can you be more shameless? Jeffrey and Ji Mingchuan are geniuses. Kong Teichu is outdated. Who is outdated? Kong Teichu was no match for him. He could only kneel and surrender. Who's the one now? You all know about Han Ming Zongzi's conspiracy and they've admitted it. Why do you still support kneeling and licking their boots? Do you feel uncomfortable not being a slave? Isn't it good to be an upright person? Why do you have to be their die-hard fans? Why do you have to be their dogs? Jiang Tian's supporters such as Zhou Xian and Chao Jinjia, as well as Jiang Tian's old friends such as Shenlu, Lu Yiting, Han Qingli, Iris and her sister, were greatly encouraged. They all began to curse at them. Facing the crazy mockery, those die-hard fans were speechless and unable to refute. After all, the result was there and their strength was clear. Jiang Tian had killed Han Ming Zongzi's clone, which proved that he was absolutely qualified to compete with Han Ming Zongzi. Besides, Jiang Tian stood on the side of Earth's interests, while Han Ming had admitted that he was the one who caused the Beidou monster's arrival and the chaos on Earth. Even if they were fanatical and die-hard, they couldn't say anything in front of the truth. At this moment in the meeting hall, even Jeffrey, the Elephant King and Sudi were completely dumbfounded and frightened. Even the Beidou cultivators such as Xianxia and Qin Shi Fairy were dumbfounded. They didn't expect Jiang Tian to successfully kill Han Ming Zongzi. He died just like that. After a long while, Joffrey spoke in a trembling voice. When Han Ming's doppelganger descended, its momentum was shocking, and its supernatural powers were all-powerful just like a real god. However, when Jiang Tian's saber slashed down, it was easily hacked to death without any room for resistance. As expected of the master of the ruins of immortality. He once killed more than 100 semi-god realm cultivators. I originally thought that he was bragging, but now I know that he wasn't exaggerating at all. Invincible. 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 Senior Tai Chu is invincible. Slash at the Northern Frost Sect. My saber is thirsty for blood again. With Kong Teichu around, Earth is safe. At this moment in front of the screen, more than 1 billion people were cheering, crazily spamming the screen. In particular, Jiang Tian's family members such as Zhao Xueqing and Jiang Tian were delighted and proud. Sasaki Haisha, Shin Mange and other disciples of Jiang Tian were also excited and cheered. Good, good, good. Kill him with one slash. At this moment the eyes of Li Wuji, Yi Karen, Dugushao and the others also lit up. Their fighting spirit surged, and their confidence that had been shattered for a long time seemed to have been restored. Although it was only a doppelganger of Han Ming, Jiang Tian could kill it with one slash. Didn't that mean that Jiang Tian already had the power to fight with Han Ming? Did he also have a high chance of taking back control of the solar system? Kong Teichu has a high chance of winning. In time he will even have the power to become the overlord of the Milky Way. At this moment, after seeing Jiang Tian's terrifying power, even Han Che, Qin Shi Fairy and Yuan Zhenkong were shocked and their hearts were burning with passion. Thinking of this, everyone present bowed and became more respectful to Jiang Tian. Jeffrey, is this what you're counting on? Jiang Tian chuckled as he looked at Jeffrey with a cold gaze. Dad, please spare my life. I know I was wrong. In the face of Jiang Tian's gaze, Jeffrey was really scared this time. He was so scared that his legs were weak and his voice was trembling. He finally remembered the fear of being dominated by Zhang Tian and finally called out the words foster father again. However, his Wuxia language was not very good, so he called him Dad directly. Senior Taichu, please give us another chance. We are willing to surrender and follow you for the rest of our lives. If you have any orders, we will obey them without hesitation. We will never betray you. The king of divine elephants could not bear the terrifying pressure. He knelt in front of Zhang Tian, prostrated himself on the ground and begged for mercy. In fact, even at this moment they thought that Zhang Tian might not be a match for Han Mingzongzi. However, the problem was that Han Mingzongzi could not reach the level where he could appear at any time and anywhere. He needed to be summoned with a carefully refined soul tablet. As the saying went, distant water could not quench a present thirst. Zhang Tian could easily kill Han Mingzongzi before he arrived. Kong Teichu, do you really want to kill us and fall out with Han Mingzongzi? Do you really want to fight to the death? If you kill us, Han Mingzongzi will never let you go. Sudi, on the other hand, had lost his rationality due to extreme fear. He was so desperate that he roared loudly and started to threaten them recklessly. Huh, you only remember that I'm your dad now? What were you doing earlier? You betrayed me in such a two-faced manner. You've made me very sad. Zhang Tian's eyes fell on Jeffrey and his face was full of mockery. Jeffrey was tongue-tied and could not say anything. He just trembled and lost his soul. At this moment, a strong sense of bitterness and regret rose in his heart. Even the 3 rivers and 5 seas could not wash it away. In fact, his father Amu and the Atlantis civilization had rebelled against Zhang Tian on the eve of the Spirit Qi revival and fought with Zhang Tian for control of the Mythic Alliance. They were all beaten up by Zhang Tian. But Zhang Tian didn't kill him. He had given him a chance. However, he didn't cherish it. When the Big Dipper arrived, he naively thought that even if Zhang Tian didn't die in the ruins of immortality and returned one day, he would definitely be no match for Han Ming and the others. He didn't expect that Zhang Tian would be so powerful. Not only did he kill hundreds of soul formation cultivators in the ruins of immortality and become the master of the ruins of immortality, but even the soul formation cultivators of the Big Dipper and the clone of Han Ming were no match for Zhang Tian. If he was given another chance to choose, even if he was beaten to death, he would not become Zhang Tian's enemy. Never betray? Zhang Tian looked at the Elephant King and said mockingly, "Do you think I will give you another chance? Didn't I give you a chance to be loyal to me and never betray me? Do you really think that Kong Teichu is easy to bully? Yes. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Do you think that I can't do anything to you because you have Han Ming as your backer?" The fat all over the Elephant King's body was trembling. At this moment he wanted to cry but had no tears. He was so regretful that he wanted to buy a piece of tofu and kill himself. What Zhang Tian said was true. Didn't Zhang Tian give them a chance? He did. Moreover, he had given it to her over and over again. Not to mention the night before the recovery of Spirit Qi, the Elephant King and the others had already betrayed Zhang Tian this time. Zhang Tian had also killed Zhou Xian and the other 5 lords of heaven of Wuxia to give them a warning and give them time to repent and admit their sins. If they had come to Zhang Tian in the past few days, knelt down and begged for mercy, and sincerely repented, Zhang Tian might not have killed them. Even if he had killed them, he might not have killed all of their families. But as Zhang Tian said, they had thought too little of Zhang Tian and too strong of Han Mingzongzi. They thought that Zhang Tian was afraid of Han Mingzongzi behind them and would not dare to do anything to them. Who knew that one careless move would cause them to lose the whole game? Since Zhang Tian's debut, who had he been afraid of? Who had he been afraid of? He had no fear at all. Back on Earth, he had dominated the 4 major worlds and was invincible. He had killed all gods and Buddhas who stood in his way. Since the ruins of immortality coveted Earth, he would destroy the ruins of immortality dynasty and flatten many worlds in a star system. And you Sai Ti. Zhang Tian stepped toward Sai Ti and shouted in a deep voice, "Have you forgotten what I said? In the entire universe, who is worthy of Kong Teichu's life and death struggle? Anyone and any force who dares to stand in my way and covet my territory will be destroyed." As he said that, he slammed his palm down. Chapter 1746. With a bang, the dimension was compressed into a piece of paper. Seth didn't even have a chance to escape or struggle, let alone fight back. He was smashed into pieces. Even the broken body, nascent soul and divine soul were all absorbed by Jiang Tian's Taotai origin returning divine law, like a whale sucking in water without leaving a drop behind. The entire place went silent. Everyone was shocked to the extreme, dumbfounded. They all noticed that Jiang Tian didn't use any divine power this time. He only used his pure physical strength, but he was strong enough to crush a peak-stage nascent soul grand heavenly lord as easily as crushing an ant. Clatter, clatter, clatter. At that moment the Elephant King and Jeffrey were so scared that their teeth were chattering like machine guns. Jeffrey even rolled on the ground without caring about his image. But Jiang Tian didn't bother to look at those ants anymore. He just waved his hand gently. Go to hell. Xianxia sneered. He formed a sword with the ice soul and snow essence laws and stabbed forward mercilessly. How dare you kill me? Aren't you afraid of Han Ming's punishment? Facing the cold sword, Jeffrey was terrified. He shouted and stood up, grabbing the trident and swinging it, forming a blue shield with the law of water. However, under the sharp sword he was unable to block it at all. Bang! With a dull thud, the azure shield shattered and his corporeal body and spirit embryo were pierced through in an instant. After his nascent soul was pierced through and frozen to death, it was ground into fine powder. Even his internal organs were turned into a bloody pulp. How dare you? How could you? Jeffrey's eyes were wide open. His pupils were full of unwillingness and sorrow. It was as if he could not believe that he was about to lead the Atlantis Sea clan to defeat the Tianqing sect, stand at the peak of this planet, and even follow Han Ming to conquer the Sea of Stars and spread the seeds of his family across the entire Sea of Stars. How could he die in the hands of Jiang Tian, no Jiang Tian's subordinates? Unfortunately, his nascent soul was destroyed and his organs were all shattered. Even if he had some essence qi to nourish his divine soul, he couldn't last more than a few seconds. Soon he fell to the ground, splattering a string of scarlet blood. Originally, even if Big Dipper didn't support the Myth Alliance, as long as he hibernated and remained neutral, he wouldn't have been killed. Li Wuji heaved a long sigh, his heart heavy. He hated Joffrey, of course. However, Jiang Tian would not give up easily. He was bound to go on a killing spree and wipe out the entire Atlantis civilization. In addition, the merfolk in the Bermuda Triangle had also been used as cannon fodder on Mars. This meant that the newly revived marine civilization on Earth had once again fallen into a deep slump. Alas, he was born in the royal family of the seabed. His life was too smooth sailing and he did not go through any hardships. He could not stick to his conscience in the face of major issues. It was inevitable that he would end up like this. Yi Karen sneered. Kong Techu, why must you be so ruthless? Seeing that, the Elephant King could not hold back any longer. He roared and turned into a behemoth with a human body and an elephant head. He broke through the glass wall and stepped on the air, flying toward the crystal warship, trying to escape. Do you think you can run away? Xianxia snorted coldly, and the laws of ice and snow essence turned into divine chains, piercing through the void. The chilling cold instantly dragged the divine Elephant King back to the hall. The divine Elephant King had already been invaded by the laws, and his nascent soul was frozen to death. He was barely alive. Mercy! Xianxia raised his sword and the Elephant King's giant head flew out. His nascent soul was also minced and he died instantly. At this moment the world was dead silent. The entire Earth, more than 1 billion people, were silent in front of the screen. 5 years ago he was the strongest on Earth, West Earth, Heavenly State and Star World. 5 years later many people thought that the new era was no longer his era. But obviously these people did not really realize Kong Techu's strength. This is still his era. After a long time, Zhang Xian came to his senses and quickly logged into Weibo and typed this sentence. Welcome back, Kong Te. Let us celebrate the Taichu Alliance leader regaining control of the Myth Alliance. From both sides of the Qinhuai River, from Gold City, from Huaxia, from the entire East and even from the entire world there were cheers. At this moment the entire world seemed to have come alive. Countless people were cheering and flooding the screen. Many people could not hold back their excitement. They walked out of their rooms and came to the streets, marching and shouting, singing and dancing, welcoming the return of Jiang Tian and celebrating his regaining control of the Myth Alliance. Kong Techu, how dare you? Suddenly, in a majestic space city called Yuntian Palace, a million miles away, a soft shout was heard. This soft shout was like the sound of the great path, descending from the sky like a great bell, instantly spreading across the land and rivers, and resounding throughout the entire earth. On earth, in the depths of the minds of billions of creatures, this voice sounded at the same time. It was like a Buddhist chant, like a celestial voice lingering in the air, covering endless territory. Everyone looked up in shock. In the sky, a figure sitting cross-legged appeared out of thin air. This person was half transparent and half real. It was completely formed by the essence chi of heaven and earth gathered by the Dharma laws. It was extremely deep and bright, surrounded by thousands of rays of light and golden light. This terrifying Dharma form stood upright in the sky. Its eyes were like the sun and the moon, and its body was glittering as if it were formed by many bright stars. It was tens of thousands of meters tall. Even though it was tens of thousands of kilometers away from Earth, half of the people on Earth could still see it clearly. It was extremely visually impactful. Under this mountain-like Dharma form, everyone felt as small as ants. Extreme fear, confusion, panic, trembling, sadness, despair, and other negative emotions instantly enveloped their hearts. It was Han Ming showing his soul formation form to deter Jiang Tian. How dare you kill my clone? This is unforgivable. Deep in the magnificent space city of the Beihan sect, Han Ming, who was cultivating and merging his divine soul with the Dharma laws of the world, suddenly opened his eyes and shouted with a pale face. Even though it was only one of his Dharma bodies, Jiang Tian had killed him in front of everyone. It was a humiliation to him, the Zongzi of the Beihan sect. Kang Teichu, you ruined my plan and killed my subordinate divine lords. I've tolerated you for too long. You've exhausted my patience. I'm kind and merciful. I originally wanted to be gentle and didn't want to attack the humans on Earth directly. But you forced me to turn against you. Very well, I'll fulfill your wish and kill anyone who dares to resist. I'll give you 7 days to go to the space city of the Yuntian Palace of the Beihan sect and kneel down to accept your punishment. Otherwise, I'll slaughter the entire Tianqing school and wash the earth with blood. As soon as the words were spoken, a terrifying pressure descended upon them. Tens of thousands of miles away shook violently. Between the sky and the earth, terrifying waves of Dharma laws swept across like raging waves. The wind blew and the clouds surged. Layers of dark clouds piled up like pitch-black mountains. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Lightning bolts raged like dragons and pythons. Heavy rain poured down like torrential rain. In just a few minutes, many low-lying areas turned into vast swamps. Mudslides erupted and mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. At this moment, countless creatures on Earth were terrified. Chapter 1747. Rumble. Divine Lord Han Ming, please spare our lives. We know we're wrong. At this moment, more than 1 billion creatures on Earth couldn't withstand the terrifying energy. They knelt on the ground and many of them begged for mercy. Terrifying, this is too terrifying. Is this the power of a sacred soul formation cultivator? It has the power to destroy the heavens and earth and overturn the world. Han Ming's divine might was like a divine mountain that pressed down, and even the cultivators were shaken to the point they staggered and were on the verge of collapse. Their faces were pale like paper and they were overwhelmed with shock and terror. He's indeed compatible with the Dharma laws of this world. He's like the dominator of this world, suppressing people with the power of the world. Only some golden core and nascent soul cultivators could hold on, but they still felt terrible. At this moment, many giants on Earth, including Zhao Xueqing, Li Wuji, Jiang Chongqing, Huqing Tian and Lotus Buddha, had glitters in their eyes. Their muscles tightened and their Dharma power surged crazily, trying to resist the energy. Even though this Dharma form only lasted for a few minutes, it was still terrifying and made people feel uneasy. It became a shadow in the hearts of billions of creatures on Earth. Han Ming has said that in just 7 days, the final battle is about to take place. Many people realized something and they couldn't ignore it. Han Ming showed his Dharma form and asked Jiang Tian to go to the space city of the Beihan sect to ask for forgiveness within 7 days. Otherwise, he would exterminate the entire sect and wash the earth with blood. Once the news came out, it immediately shocked the entire world. It occupied the headlines of all the major media outlets. The title was marked in bold and there was a string of giant exclamation marks. Of course, some people were terrified. But more people were enraged. Zhang Tian came back and defeated many heavenly lords on earth. He became a god on the Qinhuai River, revealed the dark secrets, set things right and regained control of the mythical alliance. He wasn't only the founder of the Tao Foundation and the pioneer of the recovery of spirit qi, but also the future and hope of earth. And yet, Divine Prince Han Ming treated him like an ant and humiliated and threatened him. How could anyone with a bit of courage bear it? Arrogant. Too arrogant. Who does Divine Son Han Ming think he is? So what if he was a holy semi-god realm warrior? Sir God Taichu had even killed his 4 Sir Gods and split his doppelganger apart. In terms of ability, Sir God Taichu was not weak. Yet he wanted the Grand Primordium Divine Lord to kneel and beg for mercy. This isn't an insult to the Grand Primordium Divine Lord, it's an insult to the Earth civilization. What crime did the Taichu Divine Lord commit? The one who was truly guilty was Divine Son Han Ming. He had instigated the demon race to bring chaos to the world and slaughter the common people. His sins were monstrous. Earth hasn't settled the score with you yet and you're already spouting nonsense here. You've gone too far. Fight. Sweep through the outer space cities, wipe them out completely and drive them out of the solar system. Kill them all. Many live-streaming channels, Weibo, Tiaba, forums and other media were filled with angry voices of condemnation. Could be said that this time most people on Earth were enraged. However, there were also different voices and people who made sarcastic remarks. Die-hard fans were born wretched and no one could do anything about them. Besides, Han Ming Zongzi had supported a lot of interest groups on Earth in the past 2 years. Han Ming Zongzi has swept through the star ocean and occupied countless planets like Earth. Earth can't escape the fate of being occupied. Besides, even though the demon race has caused chaos on Earth and caused some bloodshed, he has cultivated many heavenly lords. Yes, Han Ming Zongzi caused bloodshed. How many people has Kong Taichu killed since he became a cultivator? He's unscrupulous and slaughtered people along the way. His crimes are simply too many to count. I support Han Ming Zongzi. Kong Taichu's tyrannical rule must end. However, these different voices were soon drowned in the tide of the internet. Under the guidance of the media such as Watch My Live broadcast, the public was agitated. Billions of people had been completely enraged by Han Ming. Observers such as the historian of cultivation Peter Chin and other scholars such as Keynes and other officials, even published in the newspapers to denounce and provoke Han Ming Zongzi, saying that they would wait for the day when he came to wash the earth with blood. Countless people looked to the east to Wuxia, to the Kunlun building on the bank of the Qinhuai River in Jin City, waiting for Zhang Tian's reply. The masters of the sects and families in the cultivation world, the dignitaries of various countries, the secret sects and the reclusive royalty, and many other forces guessed that Han Ming's strong statement and public declaration of war must be hiding a very deep conspiracy. It was very likely that he intended to anger Zhang Tian and kill him together. But then the people were boiling and they finally got a breath of air, but Zhang Tian didn't respond at all. It was like a basin of cold water was poured over their heads, making the earth, which had finally been united, fall into a state of disunity again. For a moment everyone was in a dilemma. Lord Taichu, Mr. Keynes, the Western world and the guardians of Wuxia are all asking for your opinion. Mr. Chao Shixiang said on behalf of the government that Wuxia is united and supports all your decisions. Chao Jinjia rushed over with a folder in her hand. Inside the Kunlun building, many people focused their eyes on Zhang Tian, waiting for his decision. Could be said that the fate of the entire earth was in the hands of Zhang Tian and the others, whether they fought or retreated. Duge Xiao, Yi Karen, Li Wuji and the others were sweating nervously. Many cultivators from other planets, including Han Che, also looked serious, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. A general won't send troops out of anger. In the end, Li Wuji said sincerely, Lord, you've just returned and the cultivation world on Earth has suffered a great loss in the 2-year war. We're not fully prepared. The war with the Beidou region will be a long one. Don't mind their provocation. Li Wuji bowed slightly and said sincerely. Even Han Che and the others tried to persuade him. They knew Zhang Tian was powerful, killing hundreds of soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deity and killing 4 divine lords in a day after returning to Mars. But they also knew how terrifying Han Ming was. Besides, Han Ming purposely put the battlefield in space, where they had been operating for 2 years, so Jiang Tian didn't have to take the risk at all. Honey, you don't have to be brave. We'll definitely be able to kill Han Ming when we cultivate for another year and reach the ultimate level. Even Zhao Xueqing talked to Jiang Tian through a video call. I was just drinking tea. I didn't care about that Dharma form. Jiang Tian put down his teacup and smiled. Don't worry. They're just a bunch of ants. I won't take them seriously. I'll crush them no matter what tricks they have. I'll kill all the cultivators from the Beidou region in the solar system. In 7 days I'll sweep across the space city and kill Han Ming. Jiang Tian said softly with a disdainful look in his eyes. Everyone went silent after hearing what he said. Everyone was shocked. Jiang Tian's words were also spread around the world through the live broadcast. Everyone was excited. Li Wuji Dugashao guard Wuxia. I'll go to Mount Mang. In the end, Jiang Tian ordered the video to be turned off. He rolled up his sleeves and took the big black dog Yi Karen and Lu Shang, the ghost emperor of Mount Mang, on a flying sword and flew toward the ghost realm of Mount Mang. In the depths of the ghost realm of Mount Mang, Yin Qi shrouded the place. Why can't I find Yi Tianren's soul? Jiang Tian scanned the soul-nourishing arrays with his divine sense. His face was gloomy. Before Jiang Tian left Earth, he taught Lu Shang and other ghost cultivators the soul-nourishing art and built many soul-nourishing arrays, which was equivalent to recreating the underworld and creating a small 6 paths of reincarnation on Earth. The souls of the knowledgeable people who died in the battle were brought to the soul-nourishing arrays by the netherworld messengers to be nourished. They were waiting to become ghost cultivators or reincarnate and be reborn. But he didn't expect that the many soul-nourishing arrays here would be beaten to pieces. Not to mention Yi Tianren's soul, even the souls of other cultivators had disappeared. Even hundreds of ghost cultivators and netherworld messengers had disappeared. It was as if they had evaporated from the world. Lu Shang, what are you doing? Yi Karen was so anxious that he shouted. When I went to Jin City, Mount Mang was still fine. How could this be? Lu Shang was shivering in fear and wanted to cry but had no tears. There are remnants of laws. Jiang Tian suddenly grabbed and a section of laws fell into his hand. This section of laws was very mysterious. Yi Karen only glanced at it and felt as if his soul was about to fall into it and couldn't extricate himself. Obviously, this was a kind of law that controlled the mind. This must be the work of the superbrain man. Jiang Tian crushed the section of laws. Cold light shot out of his deep eyes and he shouted, although Yi Tianren and the others are dead, their soul power is still very strong. This is the best resource for the superbrain man to refine their soul power and nourish their divine souls. Where is the superbrain man's base now? The superbrain man was a very powerful race in the universe. They had a special bloodline and specialized in soul power. Once they evolved to the superbody state, they could change freely and the laws they controlled were ever-changing. They were very difficult to deal with. In the ancient times before the arrival of planet destruction, the ancient Earth was an extremely prosperous and eclectic cultivation planet. Many superbrain men traveled across the universe and lived there. They had once created the extremely prosperous and glorious Mayan civilization. Even now their inaccuracy was still shocking. But then planet destruction arrived and the world changed. The ancient heavenly court led many worlds to start interstellar travel. With the suppression of the deity trap array and many other factors, the Mayan race was exterminated and the superbrain man also retreated and relied on the crystal head to absorb the power of faith. It wasn't until the 19th century that the descendants of the superbrain man on Earth revived and used the Heavenly God Corporation as a platform to control many high-tech and energy consortiums in the Black Eagle Federation. After realizing the threat of Jiang Tian, they had a shocking battle with Jiang Tian in the Black Eagle Federation and were annihilated by Jiang Tian. They had never thought that their ancestors would return to Earth after a few years. They're still in South America at the Golden Temple. But they're much stronger than before. I heard. Yi Karen hurriedly said. It's the superbrain man. Lu Shang gnashed his teeth in hatred. In fact, the superbrain man also came from the Beidou planet region. However, they had lived on Earth in prehistoric times and were the gods worshipped by the Mayan race. So, in Han Ming's conspiracy, the superbrain man took advantage of this and announced their return. They claimed to be the natives of ancient Earth and the ancestors of the ancient times. This way they could break down the defensive mentality of the Earth civilization. Moreover, their scheme succeeded. Now, half of the people in South America and Central America believed in the Mayan gods. They worshipped them every day. This huge area fell under the control of the superbrain race. I don't care how strong they are. On Mars, the death of Ing Su and the others was related to them. Today they stole the divine souls of Yi Tianren and the others. Today I, Kong Teichu, will destroy this race. New and old hatred surged in his heart. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold. He rolled up his sleeves and stepped into the air, disappearing on the spot. He went straight to the Golden Temple in America where the Superbrain Man was. Chapter 1748. In a primitive jungle in South America, there was a golden temple that covered an area of 1,000 acres. Before the great changes in the world, it was still peaceful even though there were many believers here. After the revival of spirit qi, ancient temples that were buried underground rose from the ground. They were more than 1,000 feet tall and were completely made of strange metals. They were covered with ancient runes that shone brightly, giving people a sense of holiness and vastness. From afar they were shining like the palaces of immortals. Between the heavens and the earth, there was even a terrifying power of faith that gathered in the mystical crystal heads. In fact, this was an array made of soul-gathering crystals. It could attract the power of faith of believers and condense it into pure soul power for absorption. When Jiang Tian arrived with Yi Karen, the large black dog, and Lu Shang, they saw numerous believers on the plaza of the Divine Temple worshipping the numerous crystal skulls on the high platform. There were as many as 10,000 people. On the platform stood many superbrain humans in golden robes. They were tall and their skin was crystal clear like glue. Even the purple veins under their skin could be seen clearly. Their eyes didn't have the sclera, only the pupils. They were dark and deep. There was a strange halo around their giant heads like Buddhas or gods. At this time these superbrain humans were like preachers. They looked solemn, waving their hands and chanting ancient spells. Listening to one sentence made people deeply immersed in it. It was like the sound of Buddhas chanting, vast and ethereal. The believers sacrificed their mind power to receive some kind of enlightenment and blessing. They were like a kind of pope. The believers felt a kind of holy, comfortable and carefree feeling. They felt numb from head to toe, and their spirits seemed to have risen beyond the 9 heavens, to the world of heaven. They even had all kinds of fantasies. After the sacrifice, they felt lazy and didn't have any interest in resisting. They only wanted to do it again and sink into it forever. For this kind of happiness, the believers could give up everything. Their dignity, their families, their friends and their future. But in essence it would drain their body and mind like taking drugs. Normally, believers would die young, but the superbrains would teach them some simple methods to refine their bodies, chi and minds to help them extend their lives. Of course, this wasn't a good intention. The superbrain person was like raising animals. He was raising a group of humans to help them obtain higher levels of energy. In other words, this was a rather special technique of harvesting, and the believers were the cauldrons they cultivated. Jiang Tian saw through all of this with a single glance, but he ignored it. The demon god of hell's consciousness was as sharp as a sword and surged like raging waves, sweeping towards the depths of the divine temple. After breaking through the formations, he immediately sensed an extremely weak and familiar presence. Good. Very good. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with killing intent as he flew into a rage. He grabbed with his right hand and the purple lightning saber condensed in the air. In fact, Jiang Tian also sensed the presence of 2 soul formation overlords and they had already become super bodies. But Jiang Tian had nothing to be afraid of. After all, they had started out by cultivating their mind power. Once the purple lightning saber was unleashed, they could defeat their illusions with their physical strength. No matter how strong their super bodies were, no matter how many changes they had, they would still be crushed into powder. Sir, please stop. Boom. Spiritual power surged as vast as the sea. Golden telekinesis floated in the air like grains of sand, covering a radius of 10 miles. Finally, the golden grains of sand rolled and surged, forming a huge human figure in the sky above the temple. This figure was in the form of a middle-aged man. He had a bald head and was extremely handsome. He wore a golden robe and his eyes shone like stars. He was the high priest of the Golden Temple and one of the 3 leaders of the superbrain human race, Gorlin. Honorable Overlord from the East, Sir Kong Techu, I am the Grand Priest of the Golden Divine Temple, the Deputy Leader of the Elders of the Superbrain Divine Tribe, Gorlin. We don't have any grudges against each other. Why are you attacking me? Gorlin bowed slightly. This wasn't his real body. It was a projection of his mind power through a Dharma artifact. However, it looked incomparably real. It was so lifelike that it was even clearer and more realistic than the holographic projection technology that had been developed by humans. Why is Kong Techu here? Wasn't he still in Wuxia 10 hours ago? Why did he go through the laws of the world and cross half of the planet to come to the Divine Temple? Is he going to attack? Is he going to cause trouble for the Divine Temple? Then many believers turned around and were shocked when they saw Zhang Tian standing in the sky. Then they became vigilant and angry. They took out their phones to record and livestream. We don't have any grudges against each other. Zhang Tian held the purple lightning blade in his hand, and laws rumbled as he broke through the void. The Superbrain Divine Tribe is evil. You seem to be fighting against the beta monsters, but you're actually stabbing the cultivators on Earth in the back. The chief disciple of the third generation of the Tianqing school and the leader of the guardians of Wuxia, Ying Su, died in your hands. Besides, the divine souls that Yi Tianren and the others kept in Mount Mang in Wuxia were also taken away by you. Do you think I'm blind and can't see it? I think there must be some misunderstanding, Brother Tai Chu. A glint of surprise flashed across Gorlin's face, and then he said calmly, the Superbrain Divine Tribe was originally from the ancient Divine Tribe. The Superbrain gods were originally natives of ancient Earth. They once saved thousands of people, expanded their territory, and gave birth to the powerful Mayan civilization. Then the spirit chi on Earth declined and the deity ground was opened. That was why the Superbrain Divine Tribe went to other planets. The Superbrain gods may have built a strong civilization in the outer realms, but they miss their home planet all the time. This time I came back to acknowledge my ancestors and help the human race on Earth fight against the alien invaders. I also want to contribute to Earth's great new era. We're just being nice. Unfortunately, Brother Tai Chu doesn't appreciate our kindness and misunderstood us. Haha, you're pretending to be a whore. I can't believe there's someone as shameless as you in the world. Zhang Tian was so angry that he laughed. His eyes were calm and cold, causing people's hearts to palpitate. He said coldly, fine, we each have our own version of the story. There's no point in talking anymore. Whether it's true or false, remove the seal and open the door. Zhang Tian held the thunder saber, which let out thunderous sounds and Dharma laws. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky for dozens of miles. Apparently, the heavenly thunder laws had been triggered. Many colorful lightning balls quickly condensed. Each of them had a radius of 1,000 meters and contained terrifying energy that was far more powerful than sunflower lotuses and nuclear weapons. It was enough to destroy everything. The Golden Temple is the ancestral land of my race. It was our autonomous area in the ancient times. Even the ancient sages of the East couldn't enter without permission. Gorlin's face was filled with anger. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he questioned coldly. He asked coldly, what right do you have to enter? I'm the sect master of the Myth Alliance. All the cultivators on this planet have to listen to my orders. Otherwise I'll kill you, Zhang Tian said leisurely. You're the sect master of the Myth Alliance? Have you been publicly elected? Have you been recognized by the major forces? Have you had a coronation ceremony? Gorlin's face was full of mockery. He looked down at Zhang Tian as if he was looking at an ant. He asked coldly, you're the sect master of the Myth Alliance? I remember that the sect master of the Myth Alliance was Jeffrey, but you killed him for no reason. You're the sect master of the Myth Alliance. Have you been recognized by me? Kong Techu, I know you've leveled the ruins of deity. However, the ruins of deity is just a dying planet. It doesn't mean anything. I know you've killed many soul formation cultivators on Mars, but they might not be more powerful than me. He waved his hand as if he were driving away a fly, as if he were doing Zhang Tian a great favor. Kong Techu, you ignorant kid. Hurry up and leave. After all, my temple didn't suffer any damage. Since it's your first offense and you don't know how powerful the Superbrain Divine race is, I'll be merciful and let you go today. I'll give you 3 breaths to think about it. You'll die today, but if you hand over the divine souls of Yi Tianren and the others, I won't take revenge. I'll go to your home planet and exterminate the super brain divine race. Zhang Tian snickered and said. Cultivator, you've gone too far. You've killed too many people, haven't you? You only know how to kill every day. The people of the Golden Temple are friendly to the universe. How can you fight with them? An old believer with white hair and a ruddy complexion suddenly stepped in the air, stopped Zhang Tian and scolded in a deep voice. That's right. You're so cold, cruel and unscrupulous. You've committed monstrous crimes of slaughter. You'll suffer retribution one day. A 16 or 17-year-old girl believer stopped Zhang Tian. She looked innocent and cute, but she was only a chi refinement cultivator. Her bright eyes were full of hatred, as if Zhang Tian had killed her father. Stop it. You're still too ignorant after all. Big Dipper's foundation is very deep. The strength of the superbrain deities is not something you can imagine. A woman who had brought her 14-year-old son over to offer worship also stopped Zhang Tian at this moment. Cultivator, do you really want to fight? They're the gods that we believe in. If you want to fight with them, you'll have to kill us first and step over our dead bodies. A worker also jumped up and shouted. Yes, if you want to fight, you'll have to kill us first. In an instant, the tens of thousands of fanatical believers at the scene all soared into the sky, forming a dense human wall that covered the sky, blocking Zhang Tian. They were the most fanatical of the fanatics. They were even more extreme than those on the internet. After all, they had experienced intracranial orgasms. It was as if they were addicted to drugs. They had a deep-rooted belief and obedience towards the superbrain divine spirits. The human heart can be used. In this world, the greatest path of cultivation is not the laws of heaven and earth, but the art of soul control. At this moment, Gorlin's face was filled with pride and mockery. He sneered in his heart. Cultivator, let's see what you can do. Didn't you claim to be the savior of the earth? Didn't you fight for the human race on earth? But now these believers of the divine temple are of the same race as you, but they see you as an enemy. If you want to kill them, you'll have to bear the crime of killing them. I'm afraid that you'll be forced to retreat. In fact, those fanatical believers also had the same thought. Because although Zhang Tian had killed many people and was invincible in the past few years, he had always been merciful to those who followed him, especially those of the same race. You want to kill us? Don't you feel ashamed to be the leader of the Myth Alliance? Many people had the same thought and were fearless. On the internet, many people insulted Zhang Tian, but they did not see Zhang Tian use any terrifying methods to purge and suppress them. He could not bear to. He could not bring himself to do it. Oh, you want to die? I'll grant you your wish. Zhang Tian smiled casually, his eyes cold. Even ants drag out their lives, but you don't. Your brains must be damaged. If that's the case, don't waste your food by living. Suddenly, Zhang Tian slashed mercilessly with his saber in front of his chest. Chapter 1749. As Zhang Tian slashed with his blade, the Dharma laws roared and swept out like a tsunami. Colorful thunderbolts intertwined in the thunderball and merged with each other. They kept absorbing the thunder essence chi in the air as they flew. In the end, they became 1 mile large and covered the crowd. Crack! The area within a few kilometers was instantly devoured by the 5-colored thunderbolts. With the square as the center, more than 10,000 people disappeared. All the trees and rocks were crushed into pieces by the thunderbolts. The thunderbolts weren't satisfied. They spread in all directions and turned the area into a sea of 5-colored thunderbolts. Everyone who saw this scene through the satellite broadcast was dumbfounded. Zhang Tian's attack was too powerful. It was way more powerful than a nuclear weapon. Some intelligence agencies even used supercomputers to calculate that the attack was as powerful as 100 nuclear weapons. And this was just a casual attack from Zhang Tian. Whoosh! A mushroom cloud rose and the thunderbolts dissipated. Gradually, people could see what was going on. More than 10,000 people were gone. All the trees in the rainforests within dozens of miles were shattered. Even the mountains were flattened and the rocks and soil were turned into crystals. Only the Golden Temple was still standing. It was covered by layers of golden light shields. Zhang Taichu, how dare you go on a killing spree and attack your own kind? You're not worthy of being the leader of the Myth Alliance. When Gorlin saw this, he pretended to be angry and roared. At the same time, the live broadcast of the Golden Temple was still on. Hundreds of millions of people around the world were still watching. He didn't care about the lives of his followers. After all, it would only take a few seconds to train them. He only wanted to provoke the people on Earth to hate Zhang Tian. Kong Teichu, you're despicable. You're inhuman. Overthrow Kong Teichu's tyrannical rule. As a matter of fact, the believers of the Golden Temple, the extraterrestrial cultivators and Ji Mingxuan's and Jeffrey's diehard fans indeed hated Zhang Tian to the core. Their emotions were stirred up and they were all spamming the livestream channels and shouting on social media. In fact, Zhang Tian didn't care about these opposing voices at all, just like how a lion wouldn't care about the roars of ants. In any era, in any action, there would be different voices. If he minded, if he was disturbed, how could he do great things? Zhang Tian looked at Gorlin indifferently and shouted coldly, "Hand over the souls of Yi Tianren and the others. Otherwise, I will exterminate your entire clan with the next slash." Kong Teichu, this golden divine temple was left behind by the super brain god tribe from the ancient mythological era. It has been reinforced by our formation. How can you break it? Gorlin sneered. Ha, Kong Teichu, you are too ignorant. You're just an ant. Do you think you can overturn a mountain? Many of the superbrain humans were laughing maniacally in the divine temple. Zhang Tian snorted and his eyes were filled with anger. This time he finally used his true power. Boom. The nascent soul in the infant fetus opened its eyes. Behind Zhang Tian, a 10-meter-long divine disc that looked like a galaxy suddenly appeared, emitting a dazzling light. The part that represented the Kunping speed divine law turned into beams of light and entered Zhang Tian's hand, turning into a strange long blade. This blade was only 3 meters long, but the dimension around it kept collapsing and turning into a black hole. It was as if it could split the heavens and earth and divide yin and yang. The silent destruction blade. Activate all the restrictions. Seeing this, even Gorlin was shocked and his face became serious. Rumble. Dazzling golden dragons rose up from the golden divine temple. 81 dragons coiled around each other with earth-shaking roars, forming an extremely heavy barrier that represented a supreme formation. Then all kinds of talisman arrays lit up. White tigers, golden lotuses, fire phoenixes, mountains and rivers appeared and formed layers upon layers of protective barriers. There were 50 to 60 layers and each layer was awe-inspiring. They had reached the immortal level and could withstand the attacks of a soul formation overlord. Break. Zhang Tian didn't change his expression. He slashed with a cold look in his eyes. Swish. The Nirvana void-shattering saber slashed at the array shields. Like a hot knife cutting through butter, it slashed through the first layer of the protective barrier, and then it slashed through the second layer, the third layer, the fourth layer. Until the 30th layer, it was like an arrow at the end of its flight, powerless to continue. The 30th layer of the array shield only shook a few times before it recovered. Ah, Kong Teichu, now you know how terrifying the artifact forging and technology of the superbrain race are. You won't be able to break the array shield. Gorlin was shocked at first, but when he saw that Zhang Tian couldn't break the 30th layer of the array shield, he was full of confidence and shouted. No matter how strong you are, you're just a nascent soul heavenly lord. You're not a soul formation cultivator or a divine lord. At this moment he was extremely arrogant. You're just so. Although the spirit chi on earth has recovered, the orthodoxy of cultivation has been cut off. Your cultivation method is too inferior. That's the only thing that limits you. If you leave the dark side and join the cultivators of the Beidou sect, you'll be able to reach the ultimate level. He said with disdain. Do you still want to fight? There are enough energy crystals in the array base. The array shield can be restored immediately. Really? Zhang Tian's face didn't change. Suddenly, the divine disk behind him spun rapidly. The many laws were converted into the Chaos Law Divine Rule, and then into the Kunping Divine Rule. The Nirvana space-breaking saber in his hand suddenly extended to 100 meters long. As soon as the Nirvana space-breaking blade appeared, the space within a radius of 10 miles trembled uneasily. Spatial cracks appeared. Terrifying spatial collapse and annihilation appeared around the blade. The rapid collapse created a spatial storm that was extremely terrifying. What? At this moment even Gorlin was shocked. They didn't expect that the strength Zhang Tian had just used was only 1/10 or even 1/10. Boom. When the second slash came down, many of the protective formations were like tofu that had been sliced by a sharp blade. They were easily torn apart. Even the Golden Temple had a huge crack. Jiang Tian even went into the Golden Temple with the blade. At this moment the world went silent. In front of the screen more than 1 billion people were speechless. They only felt that the figure was like an omnipotent god who could destroy everything, making people feel awe and want to worship and kneel on the ground. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.